Welcome to Box Press Radio. This is episode 18. I am here tonight with Andrew, Angela, and Christopher. Andrew and I are smoking some Nomad cigars. They are the classic original blend. Mm-hmm. And Angela, what are you smoking?
I have a CAO Moon and a CAO Eileen's Dream. And coffee with my usual...
Your Irish coffee.
My Irish coffee and some leftover moonshine that I haven't finished yet.
Very cool. And joining us, like I said before, is Christopher, who actually had his first real cigar experience today, I believe.
Yeah. I got a Blondie by Drew Estate at a cigar shop that took me forever to find. And it was actually pretty good. Yeah, it tasted a lot better than the Green Game and the Black and Mild I tried last week.
Yeah, they're definitely totally different worlds. So, what did you think of your first cigar experience? Was it what you expected? Was it better, worse? I mean, you know, what did you get out of your first cigar?
Well, it was a lot smoother than I expected it to be, and the smoke didn't smell nearly as bad as the other cigars I've smelled before. So, all in all, I think it was a pleasant, better experience than I expected.
Very cool, man. So, what got you interested in cigars, though? I'm curious. Like, I know for the longest time you never had any interest. You know, really, I didn't think you had any interest in drinking or smoking cigars, for that matter. So, what was it that got you to, you know, become interested in it?
Which one, cigars or drinking or both?
Both. Why not?
Okay. So, I guess I was always more of a good kid growing up, so, you know, drinking and smoking was always sort of off the table for me, like, in my mind. Like, it was something I was never really interested in trying ever. But about a year before my 21st birthday, my dad and my mom started getting into, like, wine and interesting beers, I guess would be a good way, because they weren't like, you know, they're not like, you know, the Heinekens or the Bud Lights or whatever, but my dad was always trying, yeah, like craft beer, yeah. My dad was always finding some really interesting stuff in, like, the World Market and Whole Foods and stuff, and my mom was really enjoying some of the interesting, like, Australian wines and stuff like that, and before long, they started, you know, trying some of the cocktails and the drink mixes and stuff like that, or the not mixes, but the mixed drinks.
Right. Cocktails.
Right terminology there, I guess. I don't really know much about all that stuff, but so for my 21st birthday, my dad was kind of excited because he wanted to, you know, share a couple of, you know, exotic craft beers with me. He got a Heineken just so that I have like a, you know, sort of like what the low end of quality was, and a Guinness draft and a couple other ones I can't remember. He couldn't find any in the area from a place called Tommyknockers in Colorado, which is one of the first beers he had about a decade ago when we went visiting for something. And so he was kind of bummed out about that, but I really enjoyed just like being able to share that with my dad.
Yeah, that's very cool, man. So when you tried those beers, did you find that you preferred like the hoppier stuff, or did you like the stouts? What was your preference?
I didn't really care for the Golden Drac that we tried. It was a bit too strong for me, but I really liked the Guinness draft. But I found that I couldn't have too much of one because it kind of made my tonsils feel really fuzzy, and that wasn't great. But I kind of liked the Heineken. It wasn't amazing. It was just sort of there, but it wasn't overwhelming.
Yeah, that's a pretty watery beer, to be honest. So yeah, I see how you could get that from that. So I know you don't live like that close to your family anymore, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, I'm several states away now.
Okay. So is it just, are you just, drinking a beer here and there, or has that kind of become a bigger interest for you now?
We have this chain of grocery stores called Ingles down here. I'm not sure if you guys have them up there or not, but
we don't. But I'm familiar.
Okay, they have a really good, for a grocery store, a really good beer and wine section, and you can do like a mix and match, like six pack of bottles. And so after I moved out here, and I decided I was gonna just try to, I guess, sort of broaden my my experiences a bit. I went up there and just got like a random 6-pack or whatever happened to look good, and discovered quickly that I don't really care for much of the darker stuff, except for the draft, which I actually enjoy because of just the flavors it has. But right now, at least, I tend to enjoy more of the fruity stuff, like the fruit ales or the hard ciders.
Yeah, I'm actually a huge fan of the ciders. My favorite has got to be Strongbow. Have you tried that one yet?
No, I don't think we actually have it over here. The ciders I've tried have been Angry Orchard and Woodchuck.
I like Angry Orchard. The Woodchuck is okay, but the Angry Orchard is pretty good.
So
yeah.
So now I'm curious, with the first cigar, did you like, were you able to pick out the flavors and really get that out of the cigar? Because I know when I first started, I really wasn't able to pick out a lot of really specific flavors. But it seemed like every cigar had a main flavor that I could pick out. How was that for you?
The Blondie sort of had I kind of want to say it was a brown sugar vanilla flavor. All I could really taste, honestly, was the sweet, but it reminded me of brown sugar a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm not a huge fan of those acid cigars. They have so much of the sweet, it's hard to get any of the tobacco flavors out of it.
Yeah, after the sweetness subsided, though, it was pretty smooth. Didn't really taste like smoke to me, but
yeah. I mean, so I was going to send out the package of cigars that I had put together for you today, and then like an idiot I walked out of the house without them, but that was okay because I forgot to throw the cutter in there. So I actually did that when I got home this evening, but that's it's not a strong lot of cigars, but it's got a good variety of kind of medium to mild cigars, and then maybe one or two stronger cigars in there. So I'll be interested to hear what you think of those. We'll have to have you on again for sure to see, what you think of those and whether or not you like the stronger stuff or if you preferred the mild or, neither. You may actually prefer the sweet. I know a lot of people do. But it's all about taste.
It's very interesting to follow somebody else like emerging into the whole thing. It's kind of interesting,
Yeah.
Because you're trying to think back on one hand, like, what was I like, and then you're like, but it's so far removed from it.
I don't
now.
have to think that far back,
you
though.
don't,
I'm pretty
no.
new still.
You don't, but I mean, me, I've been smoking for a while, so it's like, God, was I really that, did I really think the same things, or,
Yeah. So I'm curious now, after your first real cigar experience, would you just completely of your own volition, no involvement with us or the podcast or anything, would you go out and buy another one?
Probably not for a while. It's not really something I can afford to do very often right now.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
It was interesting. Like I said, I was just trying something new. And I had a couple of great grandparents that used to smoke like pipes often before they died when I was younger, and I kind of remember that I just liked the smell of the pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you can go into pipes if you want to. You can go into cigars. You can try, all kinds of new things. In fact, actually, the pipe tobaccos and everything tend to be a little bit cheaper once you get up and running. So, I mean, you could save yourself a little bit of money that way, and it might last you longer, especially if you're not intending to smoke fairly regularly. And the beauty thing about cigars, too, is you don't have to smoke one, like, every day. I mean, you can be...
I know a lot of guys that smoke one cigar a week or even less. My boss, actually, he only has 2 cigars a year.
Right.
When we have our 2 main conventions for work, we're in downtown Indianapolis, and he gets to smoke a cigar each time when we go down there.
Right,
so
it's not like a pack
it absolutely can be a luxury and just
it's not like a pack
event.
of cigarettes that you need to have, like, constantly. It's,
Yeah, I only smoke once a week for this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. But, I'm definitely happy to hear that you enjoyed it at least.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little worried that you were going to be, real disappointed or put off by it or something. But I'm glad you didn't hate your first experience.
Yeah, well, actually, it was pretty funny. Wednesday, when I got the green game from the Plaza next door to us, because I need to bring up my tab to $5 for my credit card, because it's like I don't know, it's a $5 minimum charge there. So I was like, I'll get one of these. He said, I asked the guy which ones were freshest and which ones were better for a newbie, and he's like, you should try one of these ones. It's the best. It's honestly the best one we have for that cheap. And I was like, okay, whatever. So, I got it, got in my car and was, heading to work. And police officer actually pulled me over. And he's like, so what are you smoking? And I'm like, oh, it's this thing. And I showed him the wrapper, and he was like, oh, and he looked kind of disappointed. So,
he thought he was busting you for weed. He thought he had a good picture.
Yeah, well, it is a college town, so it probably happens every day.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I actually, I've had a few cops pull up alongside me and just kind of look in my window and kind of watch me while I'm smoking a cigar. I haven't been pulled over for that specifically yet, but I have been smoking a cigar when I've been pulled over. But I think the smell is pretty obvious once they get near.
Yeah. It's okay. I wasn't even smoking, and I got pulled over because I matched a description on my way to work in the morning. I'm like, really, asshole? Really? You make me waste about 15 minutes to pull over, and then you to come up here and tell me that I match a description, I'm free to go? Thanks. I was already running late for work anyway. Dick.
So I do want to take a second before we get too far into the podcast. You are actually calling in on the new phone number that we just set up for the show. Let's see here. I actually have to look it up because I want to, I want to mention it here on the podcast if people want to call in. Unless you actually have it on your phone and then you can read it for everybody.
Oh yeah, it's area code 260-247-8994.
Very cool. Thank you. I actually tried to get, box press as the phone number, but Skype wouldn't let me do that.
Yeah.
But fortunately, now the cool thing is we don't have to have somebody at their computer in order to call into the show. If somebody's traveling or in the car,
right.
It makes us a little bit more accessible. So if you guys are interested in, coming on the show or chatting with us, when you see me online, feel free to just go ahead and give us a call. And we record this same time at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time
on Tuesday
every
nights,
Tuesday night. So
the only time
feel free to call.
The only time I know that at least Angela and I won't be on is when we do our Disney thing, because we'll be gone for that week, but that's not until late March anyway. So
it's in 19 days.
19 days.
Lucky bastard.
My Mickey Mouse says 19 on him.
Yeah.
And this is episode 18. I'm 18, and I don't know what I want. Anyway.
Thank you for the serenade.
So I have another friend that's going to Disney the week after we're there.
Yeah.
So they're showing up the week after.
Yeah.
He just posted a picture about their magic bands that came. I was like, we got 19 days.
Nice. So, Christopher, the other thing I definitely want to get to, I'd like to hear a little bit about, coffee. I mean, I drink coffee and I enjoy it. I've never gotten into roasting my own.
Dude, I live coffee.
I've always done the pot of Folgers and the Keurig recently. I've always been interested, but I never have enough time during the weekdays to sit down and enjoy it, and I always spend all my extra money on cigars and booze. But I've always been interested, and I know it's way better than the stuff I drink. So how did you get into, roasting your own coffee? And, tell us a little bit about what you enjoy and just, chat about it a little bit.
Geek out if you...
I'm not nearly as well versed in the art of coffee roasting as my dad is. He picked it up about 7 years ago now, when one of his favorite coffee shops near where he works was closing down, and they were just going to throw away about 500 pounds of green bean.
Oh,
and he happened to be visiting on the last day they were open, and the owner mentioned that they were throwing away all these beans, and he's like, well, if you're just going to throw them away, I'll take them off your hands. And I'm pretty sure the owner was actually trying to get him to ask before he offered.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sure, that sounds a whole lot better. Just bring your truck around back and we'll load it up for you. And they were already ready. And
oh, wow.
So we got home. He, on the way home, stopped by Walmart and picked up some plastic tubs with lids and stuff like that, and a metal kitchen rack, and set it up in his office room basically. And he just started sorting them out, making sure, he did some research online to see how to store coffee properly indoors, and got it all set up that day.
Huh.
And he found this website called sweetmarias.com, and back then they had a few links on their homepage pointing towards some simple, home roasters you can make out of popcorn, out of an old popcorn popper, like the what they're called.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's a hotter popper from like the mid '80s that you can sometimes find at like resale shops for a couple dollars. And all you basically do is take like a tin can to extend the barrel and remove the plastic part from the top, because it'll just melt if you leave it on for too long, which you kind of have to for coffee.
Okay.
And just sort of in fits and starts, he figured out how to make that work, and started making about a batch, like a pot at a time worth of coffee, because that's all that was really sitting there. And from then forward, he just sort of reached out to people online, joined a mailing list for coffee enthusiasts, and found some websites that sold like a small 1 pound roaster where you could roast about a pound of coffee at once.
Okay. And
got that for one of his birthdays, like a couple years after that, and from then on he basically started looking at making a bigger roaster, so he could roast more at once instead of one bag at a time, basically.
Yeah.
Because after that he started getting the hang of roasting and when to stop it and when to cool it off and how long to cool it and how to store it and stuff like that. And so his coworkers and people at our church started being interested in roasting coffee with him. And so he was like, well, if I'm going to keep up with the demand, I need to have a bigger roaster. And eventually he built one out of an old grill, and found a stepper motor and someone on, I think it was DeviantArt, who basically sold the roaster barrels that would go inside a roaster or inside a grill attached to a stepper motor to turn the coffee for him, and so that's what he's currently using right now.
Okay.
And it can roast about 5 pounds at once.
That's very cool.
And,
I know very little, like next to nothing about roasting coffee, and I feel like I just got educated. And I actually kind of want to say bad words at you because now I'm actually kind of really interested in checking that out.
Yeah.
That might be kind of a fun summer project or something.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of assembling all of the parts to make my own roaster based off his design, but I'm going to try to build it out myself. So instead of buying, pieces online. Yeah,
you've always been a very handy person from what I've noticed. I am not that. I was much more likely to go out and buy a coffee roaster to roast my coffee. But either way, I mean that's very cool. So you're doing it like, is that something you can do in your home, or is that something you have to do outside?
If you got one of the 1 pound roasters if you got one of the 1 pound roasters, the commercial, like the small, like personal roasters they sell commercially, you could probably do that in your home because there's not much in the way of smoke because it roasts it slower.
Okay.
But if you were to use the popcorn popper or the grill, you'd need to do it outside because the popcorn popper is makes a lot of smoke.
Okay.
When the chaff ignites, and the roaster or the grill is just a bit too big. I do it inside.
All right, that makes sense. So what kind of coffee do you enjoy? I mean, like obviously you probably have been drinking enough that you can tell us pretty specifically what kind of beans and what types of coffee you prefer to drink then.
I've actually had quite a lot of different beans. The only ones I haven't actually tried are two of the rarer ones to find, or the more expensive ones to find, I should say, which would be the Jamaican Blue Mountain and the Hawaiian Kona. Kona runs about $28 a pound, and Jamaican Blue Mountain's about I want to say $56 a pound.
Okay.
And so you have to really enjoy that coffee, to want to pay that price. But from what I told, it's well worth it. Aside from that, there's no real bean I prefer over another. Although I have to say I don't really enjoy the Kopi Luwak because of the way the beans are processed. So Kopi Luwak coffee is I forget which farm it's from in which country, but basically the way they get the beans is there's this marsupial, I can't remember the name of the marsupial, that I think it's a tapir, that basically eats the coffee cherries off the tree, and then they collect the beans from its excrement and wash them off and roast them and sell them.
Yeah, I actually saw a news article about that. That's one of the few roasted coffee things I actually did know about.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a lot smoother and a lot less acidic and a lot more chocolatey in body than your average coffee roast. But I just can't really get past the process in which they acquire the coffee to want to try it.
Yeah, somebody dumping my coffee out before I actually drink it. I'm not sure how I feel about that either, regardless of how good the coffee might actually be. That's a little weird.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder what kind of person thought that would be an interesting, cup of coffee in the first place.
Yeah, but well, that's very interesting, man. I definitely would be interested in looking more into that and learning a little bit more about the process in an in-depth way. So is there anything else you wanted to chat with us about, or did you have any cigar questions or anything we might be able to answer for you?
Not that I can think of right now, but okay. if I think of anything, I'll send you a tweet.
Okay, very cool. And I actually do have another person waiting to call in, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell people where to find you, how to contact you, and then obviously, as always, they can go through us to get a hold of you.
I'm on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Bladebaka, all one word, BLADEBAKA. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, very cool. Now, are you on our Facebook group?
I think you invited me. I don't remember.
Okay, if you're not, I'll be sure you're on there. But yeah, we'll definitely be able to get people in touch with you if they need to. But like I said, we'll be sending you out some cigars and everything except what you need to light it, because that stuff isn't very shippable, at least easily. So yeah. I'm going to send you some cigars and a cutter, a few other little things in there. But yeah, I mean, I definitely look forward to bringing you on again after you've smoked a few of those, or maybe get in touch with you when you smoke one of those, get you to call from your car while you're smoking a cigar or something.
Yeah, and I want to hear what you guys think about the coffee I'm sending you too.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely be taking pictures and everything too.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be getting a French press to brew that in, so we can enjoy it the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, French press is definitely worlds better than a percolator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, very cool, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was a blast chatting with you, and I'm sure we will be talking again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Bye.
You
Flamed him out.
So that was Christopher. It was really interesting to hear about the coffee. I really always thought that was an interesting thing. I just never looked into it, because it always seemed like one of those things that people do, but you just don't really. You just never think to do it yourself, I guess. Coffee is one of those things. It's like, you make it in the morning and drink it and forget about it, or all day for that matter.
I was going to say, I drink it all day. I drink it in the morning and at night. But I had a friend that worked at Starbucks, and he has, he brought in his press that he has,
mm-hmm.
and he let us all try the coffee out of the press, because it really is better when it's actually pressed coffee. And Rex will tell you too, he's got a French press too, doesn't he? Or he's got some sort of press.
I believe he does. And
yeah.
I have drank coffee out of a French press.
It's actually really smooth.
It's a lot better.
And
you just gotta know what you're doing. You can't just go buy a French press and be like, hey, throw shit in here.
You kind of can. It's not any more difficult than making the coffee in a coffee pot.
Right.
It's the difficult thing for me was you have to slowly push the handle down.
That's what I mean. You gotta have some.
And I'm not a patient person, and that's the issue for me. When I think of coffee, I'm like, fucking A, I need my coffee in the morning. Like, I'll start that shit automatically, so it starts 5 minutes before I get out of bed.
Timer set.
But I mean, on the weekends, I would be really interested to do that and make it kind of like a cigar and coffee ritual, you know. Or maybe even try a pipe on the weekends for a change.
Yeah, pipes are really good with coffee too. A lot of the flavored tobaccos go really good with it. But yeah, so that's the only kind of coffee that I can drink black because of how smooth it is. It's not bitter. It's really good.
So I'm going to bring Zero on for another call here. Apparently he was interested in joining us again this evening, even though I believe the last time I talked with him, he said that he was busy tonight.
How's it going?
What's going on, sir?
Not much.
So you got unbusy then?
I did. I was going to visit my girlfriend, and she has the flu.
Oh.
So self-imposed quarantine then. Okay.
Yeah.
Self-preservation.
Yeah. It was. I stayed for a few hours, and then I was like, I should not be here too very long. I'm gonna get sick.
Yeah. Love you, honey, but I want to survive. Thank you.
I'd rather not be like you.
Someone's got to be the unsick one.
Just have to get one of those like pool cleaning nets and give her her medicine and stuff, Here you go.
I literally had to force her to agree to go to the doctor's tomorrow.
Yeah, that's something that gets me. It's the people that are extremely sick and they refuse to go to the doctor. It's like,
my whole family is that way.
Yeah, well,
my whole caveat with that is, it's fucking expensive, especially if it turns out to be something where you need a lot of shit, though.
Even my family, when they have insurance, and in my grandmother's case, Medicare, they still refuse to go.
My mom will not go, and or she'll wait until she's dying, pretty much, to go.
Right.
And that's your mom, though. She's just stubborn as hell anyway. So.
And they told my mom she could be having a stroke, and she's like, "Oh no, I'll wait for your brother to bring me food." I'm like, "Oh, so eating is more important than stroking out." Amazing.
Yes. No, most of the people here are the same way, and I mean, like, I have insurance, but I don't ever want to go to the doctors either, and it's mostly because my doctors are shitty. Like, you can have insurance, but unless you have really good insurance, they're just going to throw anyone that graduated in medical school anywhere at you.
Yeah.
So I'll go in for a cold, and they'll end up sending me to, like, 6 places, and eventually I'll just stop going, because I'm like, you know what, the cold passed already. Thanks for nothing. Like,
yeah.
I don't bother going.
I mean, there's a few instances where I've gone to the doctor and everything, but that's kind of one of the nice things is, my insurance isn't the greatest, but it covers most things, at least most normal things, and then on top of that, because of working at Walmart and everything, I still get the generics of the medicine. So, like, even then, most of the time I'm not paying a ton of money, but then again...
Like $4?
Yeah, I mean, it's $4 for the generics. I mean, my doctor put me on Singular for a bit because after we went and resanded the living room floor, my dad and I weren't wearing face masks. So all that lovely sawdust just... So for a while I was kind of hacking up lungs and stuff, so I went to the doctor, and he's like, well, I'm going to try you out on Singular and see how that works.
Nice.
And then, but it was either that or he was going to put me on prednisone.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, no, I don't want that. So
yeah, I can't contribute to the shitty doctor and insurance conversation because my insurance is baller as fuck.
Yeah.
My wife actually just went to the doctor yesterday and had a shit ton of tests run on her.
Oh yeah, it's gonna run you up quite a bit.
Are we gonna mention why?
No, not quite yet.
Oh, come on.
Oh, just say it.
The mystery continues.
Well, there's no mystery for us. Andy and I know. But.
So I guess I can say. I mean, my wife is.
Come on, you're far enough along to where it's not going to affect you.
Yeah,
it's true. My wife is 3 months pregnant, so we're going to have at least one child. Potentially more than one.
Really? Did they hear more than one?
No, but we just know it's her turn genetically.
Okay. So
it
always skips one generation, and I don't believe it's missed one in its pattern in a lot of generations.
Well, at 3 months, they should have heard more than one heartbeat.
Well, I actually talked to my boss who has triplets, and he said that they couldn't even know until they did the first ultrasound, which is going to be... almost exactly a month. Well, exactly a month from yesterday.
Okay.
Usually
But anyway,
at your 4 months,
our insurance actually covered 100% of it.
That's awesome.
So, because I expected a $40.
Yeah, I know.
I expected a $40 copay, and she was like, "Oh no, they just sent it all to insurance. Like they just paid for everything." I was like, "That's awesome. Fucking incredible."
And say we had to declare bankruptcy after our 2 kids because
Yeah.
Was it like $1,900 for both of them?
It was $1,900 for one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a hell of a deal. Did you get a bundle deal?
I'm saying $1,900 each.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was $1,900 a piece.
Yeah, so
that's all the hospital stay and all that. But I mean, craziness.
So, would you say it's worth it? I mean, you can't really return them.
Just put it back in.
I actually likened it to toothpaste yesterday. Once it's out of the tube.
Yeah, there's no going back. That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
Could say it's kind of like shit too, but you know.
We're gonna stop.
That conversation can't go anywhere constructive.
That has seen your Facebook page knows pretty much.
Yeah.
At least has an idea because you've been posting about baby names.
I did. Well, kind of, sort of. My Twitter more so than Facebook. My wife, though, everybody's been telling her congratulations and everything. So yeah, but so that is exciting. So I'm
kind of disappointed that is exciting.
It's exciting, but it's.
He's like me, honey. He doesn't.
I'm not a real excitable person.
Yeah, he's not real excitable, and when he is, it still doesn't seem like he's that excited unless it's something huge. Like me going to Disney World,
Well, I think a baby qualifies as a huge deal. But I'm a very realistic person.
Right.
And I'm already fucking poor. And
you're
I
pretty much like
double
the same,
poor.
You're like in the same boat I am. And think about it, when we had Samantha's was possibly not even my kid.
Right.
And then
so
she wasn't.
Well, even then, it's like, okay, so do I stay with Ange and raise this baby and the whole thing, or do I, do what quote unquote typical men do and be like, fuck you, I'm out,
To be clear, I'm not in that boat.
No, but I'm saying, think about it like in that realm. So not only am I sitting here going, okay, how are we going to afford this? We need a house. We need this.
Oh, see, I'm past that. I know I'm not going to afford it. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go America.
Yeah, America.
And just go even further into debt as planned. I mean, just for different reasons.
Pretty much.
Sadly, I can't declare bankruptcy because it would do me no good.
Yeah.
Speaking of bankruptcy, did anyone hear about that bill where they were allowing you to default on your school loan again?
Yeah, no, that failed. You will still have to pay it back.
Yeah.
You might as well just let me default because I don't have any money. Like, I don't know what they want me to do, but...
What they will do, because I'm currently defaulted on mine, they will send you to collections first.
Mm-hmm.
And then collections will call you and they will talk to you and say, okay, and they'll make a deal. What can you pay us?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll sit there and you'll throw around numbers and pretty much tell them what you can do and what you can't. And then they'll take that. And then if you don't pay them other than that, then they can sue you and garnish you. But they will send you to collections first.
They can't do anything. They can't even garnish anything. I don't have anything to take. I don't even have a job.
And that's
literally not do shit at the moment.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is if they garnish you, if you did have a job, they would be getting less than what they're trying to get you with now. So they don't want to garnish you because they wouldn't get any more than what they're getting now.
Well, and the thing with my loan, I have a Sallie Mae loan. They actually won't send me to collections. They do all that on their own.
They sent me to collections. I'm in collections right now paying $100 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
like,
not...
That's all I can do. Sorry, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in collections. I've actually been paying my loan for a year. As much as I can.
You also got a decent enough job to afford it. That's what.
Well, that's just it, though. That's the problem that I'm running into. Is all of a sudden I'm not going to be able to afford it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an issue. But we digress. Let's fucking talk about cigars again.
Yes, I was going to say, Ange, you just finished the Moon Trance. What'd you think?
It tasted like the first one that I smoked last podcast.
The Earth Nectar?
Yeah, the Earth Nectar. It had the same notes to it as the Earth Nectar. It was kind of strange. I was like, is this an Earth Nectar too? Did they put the wrong band on it?
Yeah, who knows?
And then now I have the Eileen Stream, which I've had before. And
I don't think you loved that one, did you?
The Eileen Stream?
Yeah.
No, I did.
The Eileen Stream's good, but I think as a cigar it doesn't work as well as the pipe tobacco.
Yeah, I was like, is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
The pipe tobacco... it smells good.
No, she liked the pipe tobacco. The cigar is just okay, but it's not as good.
Well, no, the pipe tobacco I actually don't like the pipe tobacco as much as I like the cigar.
That must be
because the cigar, you can taste the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And the pipe tobacco, you can only smell it, you can't taste it.
Right.
So that's what I didn't like about the pipe tobacco.
Yeah, that's the trade-off with pipe tobacco, really.
And Zero, you just lit up a cigar. What are you smoking tonight?
I am not entirely sure. Once again, I don't know how to pronounce this. A Rocky Patai?
Patel.
Patel? Is that an L? It is an L. My bad.
Hold that band up there, sir.
I don't even know this real because it's in it's like stuck in the plastic, so I don't even. Yeah, you can
Patel. It looks like a vintage.
It's a vintage 1990.
Okay, yeah, good one.
That's actually a pretty good cigar, from what I remember.
Rocky Patel is one of my favorite cigar makers. In fact, I've actually got some of their, in that last bundle I bought, I got some of their Evolution cigars, which are pretty good. They're nice little box press, Robustos. So.
Very cool. How's that one treating you there?
So far, actually, this has been my favorite that I've had in several weeks now.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. I'm glad to hear that. The last couple times you've been pretty disappointed, so I'm glad you found what you like.
Yeah, and two, like I said before, I think that also might have to do a lot with the fact that they're not really kept in any good condition at the moment. I don't have a humidor or anything.
But so we are still smoking our Nomads. Yours appears to be smoking much slower than mine.
Well, mine's a lot. Is the bigger sized one of the two that you had. And on top of that, I've been talking and stuff, so it's like I've kind of been ignoring it a little bit. But honestly, I mean, it's not a terribly, at least to me, it's not a terribly complex cigar. It's pretty mild.
It's pretty mild, pretty straightforward. A lot of earthiness for me.
Yeah, which isn't bad. I mean, I don't mind that.
I think it's a pretty good, just kind of... It's a good average stick. I would smoke these on a daily basis. They're cheap enough that you can afford them. I think they come out around $80 a box now.
Yeah, it's that one step removed from like a cheap yard guard. It's kind of like right in between.
Yeah, it has enough of the good flavors that it's definitely a step above. But it lacks the complexity to be something really, really special, which is not a bad thing. Yeah. It just puts it somewhere a little bit different.
That's actually kind of where I'm feeling about this one. Like, everything about it is all right. It tastes all right. It smells all right. Everything about it is average.
Now, the one thing I will say about these Nomads is the construction is pretty damn impeccable.
Yeah.
I actually got these out of the buy one get one free bin at Tobacco Stop. It was the last two Nomads that they had in the whole store.
There you go.
And they were not humidified, and they were only in my humidor for about a day. So they're actually smoking really incredibly well for being basically dry boxed and then smoked for like a month. So I'm pretty impressed. It is definitely burning a little hot, but I think that's because of that whole situation.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty impressed with these, and like I said, I mean, we will have Fred from Nomad Cigars, on the show. He's either going to be a feature in this show, but I think I'm probably going to end up holding his interview to the next podcast, and possibly try to schedule it on a night when you can jump in on a Google Hangout and maybe have some video to go along with that.
Okay.
He actually had a migraine, so we had to postpone this evening's interview with Fred.
Yeah, it's no fun. Like I said, I had a really nasty, like, one side of my head, right in my left temple headache when I went to work on Sunday. And luckily I got to work and popped some ibuprofen. And I eventually, after my first trip into the freezer, it was fine, but it was really annoying, and I was wondering if it was going to get worse as the day went on or not. So I've actually got them on my phone here.
Right here.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope look at them. Let's start going through some of our show notes. Can you go up just a touch? So I wanted to go over the construction of these Nomad Classic cigars here. It is an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper. The binder is a Dominican. The filler is also Dominican. The one I smoked was a Robusto at 54 by 5.5. Yours, I want to say, was a Toro.
Yeah, I believe that's about the size it was, yeah.
But I'm pretty certain they're the identical same blend. There's a lot of different sizes ranging from, I believe, a Petite Corona all the way to a Perfecto.
Okay. That one would be interesting to smoke. I actually kind of like the Perfecto shape.
Yeah, those are really growing on me.
Especially after having those vanadiums, you know.
And Zero, so you know what we're talking about, and anyone else that doesn't know, a Perfecto is like a torpedo where it's got the tapered end, but it's at both sides.
Right.
It tapers on both ends.
It kind of almost has sort of a baseball bat-ish shape where it's fat at one end and then gets thinner as
like
you go back. Yeah,
almost like a stretched out football.
Yeah.
So like kind of like this one on both sides?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't have anything like that at the moment.
Yeah,
those ones are pretty good.
Those are really growing on me. I was kind of hesitant to try one at first because I don't really like torpedoes very well usually. But for some reason, I really like the Perfectos, and I don't know why that is. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, the thing with the Perfecto is it's got that really sharp end, which I like that because I tend to chomp my cigars. Right. So that tapered end fits like right nicely at the corner of your mouth, like right in between your teeth.
Yeah.
And the Perfecto is kind of the same way, but because it's got that rounder shape, I think that's probably what works for you. Whereas
that's probably true, yeah.
Whereas the tapered torpedoes, especially if it's like a box pressed one or something, it's a little different.
Right. So,
You want me to go back?
yeah.
I was going to say, I know I popped up some cigar news, actually.
Yeah, have at it.
Basically, what I found out is it's a magazine that has a crappy list for end of the year. Cigar Aficionado posted some news about the makers of My Father. I guess they're getting ready in the next year or so. They're going to get ready to unleash a brand new cigar called La Antiquidad, I believe. And I guess it's going to have Nicaragua, San Rafael, Las Quebradas, and San Jose, like all those different tobaccos from all those different regions are going to be all mixed together. So
that's interesting.
John Lennon is joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
What's with the sunglasses? Is it too bright in there or what?
The sunglasses is because I have a headache and the bright screen isn't helping, and the hat is because it is freezing in my room.
There you go.
I love those sunglasses. I want some.
I only get these round sunglasses now. There's no other way to go.
I would do the aviators, but they look so huge on my head. They're just silly.
I love aviators, but I have the same problem.
I did have some. My normal glasses actually were safety style, so they had that aviator look all the time anyway. And I used to get a second pair that were just straight sunglasses that were prescription. So I used to have those aviator things. It was great when I went to high school because there were days where I'd wear my black dress shirt and my black dress pants, so I looked like a freaking cop.
I honestly
My authority.
my old pair of aviators made me look like a stormtrooper all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially while it's snowing, I could just go out and just get covered in snow and just walk around with the sunglasses on. I'll be a stormtrooper.
Yeah,
nice.
There you go. Yeah, basically what they're saying is they don't really have a release date yet.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was when can we smoke those? Because I just smoked a really good My Father over the weekend.
Yeah, there's no set shipping date yet. They do have the sizes, though. They're going to have box press Vitolas, Robusto, Toro, and Corona Grande. And then they're going to have even more on top.
I had to roll bar.
Yeah.
They're going to have Super Toro and Toro Gordo as well. So
okay.
And that's going to go. So basically, the largest size they're going to have is a 7x56, which is that Corona Grande. It's a Super Toro. Excuse me. Yeah, but basically they're going to come in boxes of 20, and they're not finalized the price yet, but it's going to range somewhere between $6 and $10.
Oh, okay.
So
that's surprising coming from them.
Yeah, something to look out for. And I guess you had Smoking Band at IPFW campus, which I know that was something they were working on for a long time anyway.
It looks like that actually happened. There's not going to be any more smoking of any kind at IPFW, which normally I wouldn't say that's even news. But there's actually quite a few students that I see coming into Regals every week buying pipe tobacco and cigars to smoke on campus.
Huh.
I know a lot of students hang out and smoke pipes on, the grounds there.
Especially the philosophy students, I'm sure.
Yeah. If they have those, sure.
Yeah, they probably do.
But yeah, so it's probably going to impact local sales a wee bit, but I can't imagine too much. If anything, it might increase lounge traffic.
My whole problem that I have with
But it's a bad trend.
Well, my whole problem in general is I understand not having smoking areas right outside the doors and things like that of the campus facilities. Right. But if I'm sitting out in my personal vehicle, I should be allowed to smoke and do whatever the hell I want in there. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean I should be out there having sex with some chick or something. I can kind of see campus cops frowning on that.
There's a big difference between public sex and public smoking.
Right, exactly. But that's the problem,
Unless they're smoking other things.
But there's the rub. That's the problem.
Smoking.
That's what I was saying. Unless
public
they're
smoking.
But no, and didn't they have designated smoking areas?
They did.
I have no idea.
And does that include the dorms?
Those were already
those were on non-smoking as soon as they were put in. Yeah.
Well,
those are on lockdown because I knew a couple people I worked with that were students, and they were talking about how they were on super lockdown all the time.
Right.
See, and that's the thing. There's I can understand the dorms are non-smoking and they don't want, like, you know, pot smoking or drinking or anything going on in there.
Right.
But it's just like, at least have a designated smoking area if you're going to say don't smoke. Make them go outside into like an area.
Right.
And say don't, and only smoke here. And then,
like if you say no smoking on campus except for these specific areas, that also eliminates the problem because then people that don't want to be around it can very easily avoid it.
Yeah. Well, they did. I know they did have some designated smoking areas set up, but even then, I think it's just for them.
Oh, it's not surprising, and it's not. You know, I'm not upset about it, but
no, it's just
I just like to mention things like that when they're local because it's a bad trend. It's becoming increasingly difficult to smoke anywhere in Indiana.
Yeah.
So when you see things like that, it's worth mentioning. But I don't want to spend too much time on it.
No.
We have a shitload of video games to talk about tonight. You know, we'll probably keep checking in on our cigars. I know I'm about to light up another one because I'm about done with the Nomad.
I'm still working on mine, but
so let's do a poll here. Should I smoke the gigantic Omar Ortez Maduro?
That is pretty gigantic.
I want to steal that one from you.
A Nica Rustica?
You've had those about 1 billion times.
I have had 18 of those out of that bundle.
Yeah, so boo on the Nica Rustica.
Or the Cuenca y Blanco, I believe. I want to say this is it's a Lonsdale.
Lonsdale.
I just want you to put the huge phallic one in your mouth.
If I had a nickel for every
Giggity.
time I...
Well, every time you said that, hopefully you're not telling people just to... Never mind.
Just saying I'd be rich. That's all I'm saying.
No comment.
But I've actually smoked both the Nica Rustica and the Omar Ortez into the ground. I've actually definitely smoked a box of the Nica Rusticas or a bundle.
Yeah.
And I've smoked at least 2 boxes of the Omar Ortez because they come in boxes of 60.
Well, then go with the CYB.
So I think I might go with the CYB.
Yeah, there you go.
Why not? And
that's a huge phallic one.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, depending on how this podcast goes, I might actually bust into a third cigar tonight because I don't have any other plans. And we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
You don't have to work tomorrow?
I have to work, but, I mean, as long as I'm in bed by like 11:30, it's all good. My wife's going to bed super early now, so it's not like it matters.
Yeah, I know. When I was pregnant, I would be asleep on the couch and be trying to watch her shows, and I'm like...
Yeah, she's like falling asleep at 8:30 o'clock.
We wouldn't even get to the main event on Raw on Monday nights on wrestling, and I'd be sitting there like, whatever, I'll just finish watching it.
Just tell me what happened.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I want to chat about video games. Okay. I want to chat about TV and movies. I tried to watch some TV this week. It hasn't been going well. I've been busier than shit.
Yeah.
And our cable went out.
Yeah, we had that issue this morning.
Yeah, everybody's cable was out.
Yeah, I was pissed because I wanted to do my 8 miles, and I
woke up early to fucking drink coffee and play video games because of a new addiction. And, yeah, so instead I smoked a cigar this morning, which I hadn't done in like 2 months or more.
There you go.
So that was enjoyable. I actually smoked a Papas Fritas from Drew Estate.
How are those? I haven't had them
yet. They are
yet.
really, really good. It's basically like smoking a Liga Privada.
Okay.
Except it's a tiny cigar. Like a petite Corona.
Okay.
Maybe a little larger. But, yeah, Rex gave me that. I gave him one of those judges.
Okay.
And he traded me, well...
He hasn't had that one.
I was just going to give him a judge. And he's like, no, you got to take this one. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, Rex, I'm trying to give you a cigar.
Hey, if he's throwing cigars at you, don't say no, man.
Floaties at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's the cinnamon.
Yeah.
She's looking at the moonshine, looking at the floaties.
Well, I'm trying to get it to, like, go back in. And...
No, with the
Once
cinnamon.
Once you move it around, you're drinking it. Enjoy the cinnamon flakes.
Yeah, miss, I drink gritty ass coffee. Yeah. I don't want to hear shit.
No, I'm still planning on drinking it. I was just trying to get it to kind of dissolve back in, so it...
Again, gritty ass coffee.
Yeah, I think it's a little too thick.
I don't care if it's floaty or not.
You can let it settle, I think, but that's probably the best you can hope for.
Well, it wasn't like stirring back up to go back in. It was staying at the bottom, so... Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to do my 8 miles this morning and watch, some of my shows or something, and...
You couldn't do that,
So I had to pop a movie in, which wasn't bad, I guess.
What'd you watch?
She watched Crazy Stupid Love.
I'm sorry.
Hey,
moving on.
I actually bought. I actually bought it.
I like the movie too.
I bought that and Horrible Bosses in a 2-pack because I wanted to watch both of them. So I'm like, "How's the movie, honey?"
No,
I didn't watch it with her.
Pretty
so.
good.
I saw the end of it.
I have seen that. It wasn't the worst thing I've seen.
It's just one of those,
Horrible Bosses was hilarious,
I don't know
though.
that that's something I would want to watch while exercising, but I guess it's interesting.
There wasn't much else for her to watch unless she wants to watch Batman cartoons or Green Lantern.
I was looking for the other one that I bought that had Napoleon Dynamite
That
on
one's
it.
out here.
Yeah.
I haven't brought it in the house yet.
Yeah, well... Freaking! I wanted to watch Napoleon Dynamite.
We actually watched Euro Trip last night.
There you go.
Yeah,
they just had a
10th anniversary.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
which is weird when you
Matt
see that.
Damon is in that too.
I know.
How weird is that?
Yeah. Scotty doesn't know.
Yeah, wakes up in the morning with the drummer and the girl.
Well,
Fiona.
Well, again, my problem with watching a movie like that is I'm the kind of guy that would just beat the shit out of that guy at the party because he wants to be a dick and be that much in my face about it.
Since we're talking about my incoming child,
yes,
incoming child, incoming.
It's gonna be a lot like that. It'll be like an artillery shell.
They're gonna ask you to cut the umbilical cord and be like, "I'm going in." No, it's gonna be like the bomb has been planted. It's like Counter-Strike in the fucking hospital room.
He knifed the baby.
Wow.
Phone check. Oh
god, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But we like to talk about geekery here on this here podcast.
Yes, we do. We do indeed.
And as you guys know, I'm a Batman fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a big fan of motorcycles.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of sports.
Mm-hmm.
And it annoys the shit out of me when people ask me if I am a sports fan or, oh, do you like that because of a sports team?
Right.
And I have this feeling that if we were to steal Kevin Smith's idea and name our firstborn Harley Quinn,
right,
which I think is a badass name,
yeah,
I would constantly be asked if it was because of Harley Davidson motorcycles.
Mm.
And I would have to say no, and then they'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
So, the other name that my wife actually brought up was Catwoman's name. Selena Kyle. So, that's a prospective name.
So you actually going to have Kyle as the middle name?
I'm thinking about it. I'm not 100% sold on that.
I'm down with it.
Just because there's family members that I don't like named that.
No.
And I don't want to think of that every time I say my child's name.
Yeah, but you can't. But see, it's like if you're going to go down the Batman like female like rogues gallery or whatever.
Well, and that's why I was thinking of naming it like spelling it different.
You could do that. The only other ones I can come up with off the top of my head is you could either go with like Barbara, because that's Batgirl, Barbara Gordon.
Same problem.
Yeah.
Same problem.
Or you could go with Talia.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be Talia al Ghul.
See, and then that also transitions over into Mass Effect. There's a Talia in that as well.
Okay,
yeah, but that's not like
Effect,
horrible. So. That's not like asking about a sports or motorcycles. Like,
that's what makes it okay.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So yeah, actually,
I can't remember. Oh wait, no, Pamela Isley. That's her name. It was Poison Ivy. So
yeah, but we have quite a few other names. One of the boys' names that we've been tossing around is Uriel. Or Uriel. How did you pronounce it?
Uriel, yeah.
Uriel, yeah.
I still like Merlin.
Yeah, I like Merlin as well.
I'm a dork and I like that.
But Uriel is actually a archangel.
Mm-hmm.
It is specifically the one that warned Noah of the flood.
Mm-hmm.
It is also a prominent space marine from Warhammer 40K.
There you go. Yeah.
I can't think of Noah's Ark without thinking of Bill Cosby now. I was a kid and heard him stand up about Noah. That's all I hear. Noah. What?
I want you to build me an ark. Right. What's an ark? Now, the part about that bit I always loved was the part where his next door neighbor comes home and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" I can't tell you. Ha 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 ha. Can you give me a hint? You want a hint? Yes, please. How long can you tread water? Ha 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 ha. It's like, what is it? It's an arc. Really? You want to get out of my driveway? I gotta go to work in the morning. I could do the whole bit, but I'm not going to because I don't want to get sued. But
I haven't heard this since I was like small. I want to go listen to that again.
I like his 500-mile-an-hour car though. That was even better. Where he ended up a tree backwards.
Who did you say that was?
Bill Cosby. Look at his old stand-up.
He's actually coming to town here soon.
Yeah,
so.
I kind of wanted to go to
Look
that.
Look at Bill Cosby's really old stand-up, like back when he was on the Cosby Show, pretty much. And
I didn't know he did stand-up ever. Like that's
oh yeah. That's how he got famous.
If you wanna see, like, I guess the best bit, like the best stand-up thing ever, you have to look for the video. I'm sure it's probably on Netflix or something. It's called Bill Cosby Himself.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is on Netflix. I just watched it like last week.
Okay, yeah, because that's pretty much all of his classic bits for the most part rolled up into one, especially all the ones about him growing up with kids, and the best one's the one where he gets up in the morning and gives the kids chocolate cake.
Dad is great.
He gives chocolate cake. Mom comes downstairs.
He gave it to us. We didn't want it.
They turned on me.
He's in there thinking, chocolate cake, it's got eggs?
Milk. Bread.
Yeah, it's some of the best stuff that I heard, and I was quite young when I heard it.
Well, see, now that you're older, it makes even more sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hilarious now that I have kids. But my stepmom had the CD, and we would just listen to that CD all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not that long ago when it was on CD.
Between him and Sinbad, those are the two best comedians I can think of that don't have any, like, profanity in their acts.
Yeah.
Which I have nothing against profanity in acts, but there is kind of a limit to doing it. I mean, some people just abuse the privilege, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's like, look, I understand what you're trying to do, but Richard Pryor could do that and be funny because it made sense for the stories he was telling.
Right.
He wasn't being obnoxious about it, you know.
It was literally just kind of the way he spoke,
right?
In a manner.
And the people the situations and things he was talking about, it's, you know, something he knew, something he grew up with. So there you go. Anyway, getting back into the geekery, as we were talking about video games, we're wanting to get into that discussion. I know you've been playing EVE Online again, apparently.
Very much so. That game is... I'm not even certain you can call it a game, because it's
almost its own virtual reality now.
It really is. It's kind of become its own monster.
Yeah.
What actually got me interested again is one of my high school buddies plays, and he keeps... Every time I mention, like, oh, I need a new game, or oh, I'm bored with my stuff, he's like, come play EVE. Mm-hmm. And then I read the news about the monument they're actually building in Iceland.
Yeah.
Where the game is developed. Mm-hmm. And
I just want to know...
My name is going to be on that monument, by the way.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is cool.
I just want to know...
How did that happen?
Well, we'll get to that, but all I gotta say is I just want to know when those motherfuckers are going to bring out World of Darkness Online.
Probably never.
I'm waiting, assholes. I'm waiting.
You should not hold your breath.
Have you seen their footage already? I know they got shit done.
Yeah.
Do not let this become the Duke Nukem Forever of MMOs, damn it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, you're probably already there.
No, damn it, no.
So the way that the monument works is every active subscriber as of March 1st, 2014, will have their name inscribed on this gigantic monument.
Okay.
And when I say gigantic monument, I don't remember the exact specs, but we're not talking like, you know, college.
It's big enough to
structure.
It's big enough to be its own, like.
It's going to be the size of a building or more. I was
going to say it's big enough to be its own, like, World Trade Towers memorial type thing.
Yeah, this is a big ass monument.
Yeah.
And it's actually going to be 3 towers. Mm-hmm. They're all differently shaped. One of them is slightly phallic. I hope my name's on that one.
He wants his name on the penis.
I do. But I didn't even know that until today. I actually read that. I didn't think I would have anything to do with that. I thought it was just literally a monument, no names involved, maybe the founders or something. Mm-hmm. But it's actually very cool. And I'll post a link to it on the page. I think I may have already posted it even.
Yeah, I think you put something up about it.
But yeah, that game, like, I've played probably like 8 hours at this point, and I'm not done with the tutorials. Now, granted, I'm done with the basic controls tutorial, but there's basically like 6 different people, virtual people, that give you missions that teach you the different aspects. So, like industry, like mining and crafting spaceships, combat, so the military branch, there's advanced military, commerce, there's a lot of different facets. But the game has its own economy. Everything is very much run by the players, 100%. There was actually recently, within the past year, a international diplomat who was also a diplomat in the game. And he was very well known, very prominent, and he died. And there's actually a tribute to him in the game now.
That's it's. I mean, you think World of Warcraft is deep? No. No, not anywhere close.
And it seems like a insurmountable wall to climb to be able to play the game. But they've actually made the tutorial very, very easy to understand. They've made the game very approachable. And it's just a matter of people are so set on like, oh, that game's impossible. That they don't realize it's very approachable now. It does take time, but it's an MMO.
Right.
You can stop at any point and come back, and that's actually one of the easiest facets of it.
Yeah, my problem is
the training keeps going when you're gone.
Well, I was going to say, the last time I tried to play it, I got too far ahead of the tutorial, and I screwed it up, so, like, I couldn't go back. So I was stuck in that tutorial because I went further than what they wanted me to do.
Well, and they've totally changed the way that all works now. It's all 100%.
I'm sure they have. This was a while ago, but I'm just saying.
I would say it's like a step away from being foolproof.
Okay.
Like, it's very, very close to being perfect at this point as far as the tutorial goes. But I got online yesterday morning. I was going to get online this morning, but internet was down.
Right.
I spent, like, I think an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Just figuring out how to train new skills, because I wanted to not have any weapons on my ship and just use drones for protection.
Yeah.
So what I had to do in order to do that was buy a secondary mining laser, so I could just equip that instead of a gun. And then I had to train my pilot to be able to operate drones, and then to be able to operate a specific type of drone called a scout drone.
Right.
Which was a hobgoblin, specifically. And because of my own stupidity, I kept trying to add things from one of my training queues to another training queue when I should have been adding the skill book. And unfortunately, the game is based on like several windows. So like when you open something, it might accidentally drop a window behind another window because you misclicked.
Right.
So the prompt that says, "Are you sure you want to put this ahead of this other thing?"
And you misclicked.
Yeah. I didn't know that was there, and I'm like, "What the hell? It won't add it." So I spent like 30 minutes figuring out the fact that there was a window and had to close everything to find it. And the best way I can describe the game now, like after giving it a real honest shot, and I am going to stick with it, I think. I'm enjoying it. Almost like if you enjoy working on your computer and like going and finding files and like doing computer shit, you will enjoy the game. But it's the closest thing you could get to a pen and paper RPG. Because everything works the way it would in a pen and paper RPG. Like your skills are all based on sheets. It almost even looks like a pen and paper RPG where your paper is digital. And that sounds crazy, and you wouldn't even realize it until you're so far into the game that you kind of are like, man, I'm just going through one sheet to another Like, I could play the game without any of the graphics.
Yeah.
I could literally play it with just spreadsheets.
Huh.
And that doesn't sound enjoyable up front, but then once you've gotten through all of that,
yeah,
and you go out and start actually flying your ship into space and mapping your routes and warping through gates, it becomes super enjoyable.
All day long, so I don't mind that.
Yeah,
I do.
Well, and it makes
literally,
it interesting.
That's all I do all day is make Excel spreadsheet after Excel spreadsheet after Excel spreadsheet all day long because they want me to just log everything, and Excel is the best thing to log things with and make charts with and stuff like that. So I'm the Excel queen at work. I was the binder queen, but now I'm the Excel queen.
There you go.
Although I did say something at work that everybody construed as dirty, and I really wasn't being dirty, but they said I was like the professional task writer because we have these task-based job safety analysis. I was like, I'm professional at everything I do. And they were like, yeah. I was just like, I wasn't even trying to be dirty
I was going to say, was it them thinking you were being dirty or being arrogant? Because it sounds arrogant. I'm professional at everything I do.
Yeah, they're like, well, after that, they're like, yeah, I wonder what she means by that. I'm like, whatever. So.
I'll vouch for it.
Oh, that's because
I think they were calling you a hooker.
Get my dirty.
Just saying.
Well, and then I left, and they were like, "You're leaving us?" So I was like, "You'd have to pay me to stay."
I wonder how they ever got to that point.
No. See, here's where I would be the guy, and I was like, no. See, we pay a hooker to leave. That's the whole point.
My time is valuable. Pay me to stay.
Thought you paid him to come, but okay.
No, that's secondary.
No, they paid me to come. Anyway.
But yes, we digress. The Fort Wayne Cigar and Pipe Club meeting.
Which we missed.
Well,
he was tired and we were poor.
Poor, and I just really, ever since Thursday, my furnace in the house here the original furnace has gone on the fritz and had to get replaced. I didn't have the $2,000 to pay for it, so my father fronted it to me, so now I'm going to owe him like $200 a month to pay him back for it. So that bummed me out hardcore this weekend, so I was just really not up for much of anything really outside of just going to work. Which is sad to say, but...
You don't really have a choice with that one, though.
I could have called off, but I'd be locked in for 6 months. And,
yeah.
I don't want to do that with my attendance.
It was a good meeting. I mean, everybody was in a lot better mood than they've been at the last few meetings. I think people are starting to get over the winter bullshit.
This one, the weather was nice enough that people actually could have come out. Whereas the last two, I think we had to postpone because of weather. So
it was fairly busy. I think we had,
and the Super Bowl thing was kind of
impromptu. We had like 17 people show up, and we had like 14 stay most of the time.
That's pretty good. Normally, it's like 11 show up most of the time. So
yeah, it would have been closer to like 20 to 25, but there was actually that that concert going on downtown. I forget what it was called.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, so a couple people missed it that would have went otherwise. But it was a good meeting, and the highlight for me anyway was actually the fact that we streamed all of Winter Brawl 8, which is a big fighting game tournament run by Team Spooky.
Awesome.
Which was really cool. It was fun to watch, and people were interested.
Were they watching it kind of like a UFC fight?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's why I figured that would be a good thing for you guys to do. I'm sad that I missed it, but
it definitely was a good primer.
Yeah,
but people were actually like, "Oh man, we actually were kind of hoping you were going to have StarCraft." Like, I think I actually just by talking about it enough got people interested.
Yeah.
And I actually had people saying like, "Hey, when are you going to have StarCraft?"
Yeah.
So the next time we have some event, or there is a StarCraft event, I'm absolutely going to be streaming it at Rudy's.
Cool. Cool.
And it's definitely cool to watch that on like a 50-inch TV.
Oh yeah.
I just like the fact that Rudy's doesn't make us pay their their membership fee.
Right.
Well, it's not even just a membership fee. You got to buy stock and the whole thing.
Like,
so
they
here's
don't
the
make
thing,
us pay to be there, but we can host our...
Well, and the reason that we're able to do that is because we give them business that they otherwise wouldn't be getting. They had one person show up all day other than us.
Yeah.
So they would have lost a ton of money had we not been there. So it's, it is nice that they're doing that for us, but...
Plus we get
we
the
also
word
have
out,
to
too.
keep
It's
in
not
mind,
altruism on their part. I
Right.
mean, they are making money and
they are
bringing
making a good
customers
profit
in, so,
off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is fine. That is the point.
Plus we're kind of acting as, like...
word of mouth, like
Yeah.
advertising for
Yeah.
them too.
That's
So
And that
what
was
we're
the other
asking for.
weird thing is it was probably the best behaved meeting that we've had. The conversations actually stayed fairly tame. There was a poker game. I mean, granted, there were, it wasn't any more, I don't know, I don't even know how to phrase it. It wasn't any more off the wall than the stuff we talk about on the podcast.
okay, that's cool.
Well, I mean, the last one...
There was no
before
penis
that
game.
Right? Yeah.
Well, the last one before that was pretty tame, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody's just kind of slowing down. Everybody's a little bit tired.
Yeah.
And not only that, I mean, our Facebook group, I think people can vent most of their...
Insanity. Yeah.
they're crazy.
Penis and sheep jokes on
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Although Rex did get a pretty awesome gift.
Yeah.
A masturbating midget.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's a wind-up toy of a little bald midget that jerks off. And it's pretty fantastic.
But see, that's the only thing I don't like is the fact that he doesn't come. He just keeps jerking and jerking and jerking away.
It's hell. It's actually hell for the midget.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
He's probably got really big balls because of it.
And huge calluses.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised it's not rubbed raw by now.
Probably is with Rex sitting there playing with it all day.
But yeah, I mean, it was a good meeting. It was fun. I was shocked at how well the streaming went. The internet held up. We ran it at 1080p.
Nice.
It looked fantastic. The only thing that people didn't like was Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Because nobody can tell what the fuck is going on in that game.
You really got to be paying attention.
And the way that game plays is a lot like people play pool.
Yeah.
Once you start, you just kind of keep going unless you screw up and then the other person wins.
Right, yeah.
So it's a little bit boring to watch even if you do know what's going on. Because, it's supposed to be one-sided.
Whereas, like, something like MK or something, at least it kind of goes back and forth, and like I said, is more like a UFC type fight.
So Super Street Fighter 4 was kind of the big draw.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, there were definitely
Did you guys have Injustice at all, or?
We tried, but that stream actually had a lot of problems. They kept dropping, and they had to keep restarting the stream, so we just left it on the main stream all day.
Okay.
But it ran from... I ran the stream at my house before I went to the meeting from noon.
Yeah.
And we kept the stream going all the way to where it ended at like 9 o'clock.
Okay, cool.
So I watched 9 hours of fighting games on Saturday.
Nice.
See, to me that would be fun because I love fighting games.
Yeah. I mean, it was a blast. It was super fun, and when I got bored, I just went and talked with people, and we sat there and chatted basically through the whole thing.
Well, like I said, that's part of the reason why I figured that one would be a good, like, introductory thing to seeing how this would all work, especially with the club, because I know a lot of people in the club are, like, MMA, UFC fans, and I'm like, well, a fighting game would be a little more their speed.
It's a smaller jump.
Right, whereas, like, sitting there watching people play a real-time strategy game could probably get kind of boring unless they're people that like to watch chess matches, because essentially they're the same idea.
Right.
So,
and the one problem we did run into was the extremely unprofessional environment they run those games in.
Yeah, well.
That was the one hurdle where people are like, who are these assholes? Like, who are these ass clowns sitting there, like, yelling about something that nobody understands and talking to people off of the screen.
Right, yeah. We talked about that with Phil, like,
at length,
episodes ago, so it's just like,
so honestly, that was the one known hurdle, but, basically what we ended up doing for the most of the time was just turning the volume down and watching the matches and just seeing who the people playing were, which honestly, for me, that's the best way to watch those.
But speaking of games as well, you have a note here that says MMOs wouldn't work.
MMOs.
Mentioning Aeon and no Open
Oh,
ESO.
yeah.
So
I tried to play a bunch of MMOs that I just haven't played in a long time. I tried to go and revisit a few.
yeah, that's kind of what I did, because I know I mentioned it last time, but I hopped back into Champions Online for a little bit, but with my computer hard drive dying a slow, horrible, nasty death, the last couple of times I've tried to even I get the launcher to load, and then as soon as I go to log in and hit the play button, it'll go to the loading screen and like start up with the cryptic logo, and then nothing. It just won't go anywhere beyond that. So I don't know. I'm sure it's probably some part of it's in a bad sector or something.
Yeah, you probably have a corrupted file.
Probably. Even though I've done the verification of the files and that goes fine. So I don't know.
You might try just uninstalling and reinstalling, I guess.
Or getting a new upgraded PC.
Yeah, there's always that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I tried a bunch of games that I wanted to revisit. And we talked about it a little before the podcast started. Like, I tried to get Ion to run, and it just would not run. I installed it, and every time I tried to run it, it would just re-update and download the whole game again.
Now, I know a little bit about that one, but could you explain to the people who may not know anything about Aeon, what it's about, what the deal is?
Basically, it's like a World of Warcraft-style game, except it's based in a different world.
It doesn't have that cartoony look to it.
It does have a cartoony look,
really?
But it's like an anime cartoony look.
Okay.
So it's... Are the graphics sharper than World of Warcraft?
Yes,
yeah.
It's a much higher res game.
Okay, because anime
but it looks like anime.
Yeah, anime has kind of
sharp lines and textures
and stuff. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting game, but like if you know what World of Warcraft is, that's the way that game plays. At the base level.
Yeah, that's pretty much what most 99% of all MMOs are anyway, so...
Yeah.
Unless you get into some of them are kind of... There's some out there that are kind of like real-time strategies, but, you know...
But yeah, I mean, I tried to play that, and I don't even remember what the other ones were, but I tried to play 2 or 3, and they just would not work. So finally I was like, fuck it, I'll try Eve again, and that's what led me down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
So that was what that note was about.
Okay. And then you're mentioning you're going to pre-order...
Yeah, I'm going to
Elder Scrolls Online, which
I
would love to try the beta. It probably wouldn't run on my PC, but hey, whatever.
I have a spare key for you for this weekend if you want it.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. On the weekends I work, so I don't really get any gaming time at all. So that's the downside of having weekend.
Well, it starts
keys.
Friday morning.
Yeah, that's when he works.
I'm at work at 4 a.m. to whenever we get done.
Okay.
So
he works Friday, Saturday.
That's right.
That's why I hate it when they do betas and it's like, oh, but you can only play on the weekends. Well, fuck me. That's the time I can't play because I'm busy working. And when I get home, it's dinner and this, and then I got to go to bed, you know.
I can't fuck you on the weekends either.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, either way, I can send you a key if you get a chance to jump on and just see how it'll run for you.
I'd like to, because I know my computer can handle Skyrim.
Yeah, if you can run Skyrim, you can run Elder Scrolls.
Okay.
It's definitely a lower res version.
Right.
I really can't say anything about the game because I'm not sure what the status is on the NDAs. I don't think it's much of one anymore.
Yeah, let's not get you in hot water with the mouth closures.
I do believe the NDAs have now lifted.
Well, I know they lifted, but it may have only been for press, and I don't know that we're verified as press at this point for them.
But either way, I mean, from what I've heard...
It's easy to get a beta key at this point. It's almost open beta.
Yeah.
You can jump in and check the game out this weekend starting Friday, I know, and that I can say for sure.
Okay.
But from what I've seen, like, I watch a guy that goes by Force Gaming on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
He does little updates, and one of the games he follows is Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, like, they completely overhauled the way the mages work, the way magic works, the way combat works. And the game just looks 100 times better than it did originally.
Yeah. With my gaming node, it kind of gives me a little bit of hope that it might resurrect an old idea that they were talking about doing, that Bethesda was doing.
Now, the one thing that burns me, though, is the only way to be able to play as any race with any faction is to pre-order the game.
Right.
That's also the only way to get the Imperial race.
Yeah.
So as much as I hate to pre-order it, I want that ability.
Right. It is kind of stupid. In the back of your mind, there's something telling you that eventually they are going to have to unlock that if they really want to grow their player base.
But they can make you pay for it, too.
Right.
So I'm not paying any extra money for it. I'm just paying a little bit ahead of time.
Right.
Just so you know, according to the official Elder Scrolls Online website, the beta NDA has lifted. It says from this point on, you're invited to share your experiences with others.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
But I mean, so I guess I can say originally, my first experience with the game was it fucking sucked.
Yeah, that's what I heard across the board. Even Angry Joe put up a video about it.
Like, to the point where I was like, I'm not fucking playing this game again. I uninstalled it. Like, the beta that I had access to. I was like, fuck this game.
So it's even more messed up than a beta is supposed to be.
Yeah, my issues weren't bugs. My issues were, this game is not fun to play. It started out kind of like a Skyrim mission.
Right.
Like, you start out in a jail cell the way you start out in all Elder Scrolls games.
Like Skyrim, pretty much.
Yeah.
Skyrim's the only one I've played, so.
You basically go and you complete this little, canned story.
Right.
And then it dumps you out in an open world that's just bleak as shit. And it's like, well, I can run around and do these missions that don't really mean jack shit because there's 18,000 other players doing the same mission.
Right.
Or I can go and do these super easy dungeons with really bad mechanics.
Right, yeah. So there's like no challenge and no...
It just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Like, the bottom line, I did not have a good time playing the game.
But obviously...
And it was like a mediocre-looking World of Warcraft clone at that point.
But they've since tweaked that, as you mentioned, I believe.
They've done a lot to improve the combat and make it just more interesting to actually play. As well as they've made it look a lot better. The animations are better, which I figured they would be doing. But they've made enough gameplay improvements that I feel like it's worth playing at this point. So I figured it's worth buying into early because I know I'm going to buy it, and I don't want it to cost me later.
Yeah, I'm kind of holding...
It's not going to do any good to say, oh, well, fuck that game, I'm boycotting it for the pre-order because I don't agree with that standard.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
That's the standard of everything now, pretty much, though. I mean, even like just regular games. I mean, I'm a geek. So, like, if they come out with some... So if they come out with, like, pre-order exclusives that are awesome enough, I will find a way either to pre-order it, or I will try to find at least just the swag stuff that they include. Like, I did that with Saints Row 4, because on the PC side, with most games anymore, most of the pre-order cool shit, they don't give us. It's like, PC guys, fuck them, But here, Xbox, PlayStation, have this shit. Fuck you. I mean, Watch Dogs pissed me off with that a little bit already, because they have their, like, limited edition that comes with a replica of the hat that the guy wears and his little face mask.
Yeah.
But here, all you get's the fucking hat. Why? I understand in the UK that you're giving it to them, and I understand that trying to, I guess, appeal to different markets or whatever. But why can't we have a face mask? Really?
Because you're white.
I guess so. I mean, it's either because I'm white or they think I'm a terrorist. Whatever.
America.
I had a strange encounter with the Elder Scrolls beta that had nothing to do with the gameplay at all, because I never got to play it. I signed up for the Mac beta, and they didn't say anything to me, and then right as the first beta was starting, they sent me one for Windows.
Okay.
And so I wrote, IT and the technical support people, and I was like, so I really still want to play this game. Don't have a Windows PC. Signed up for the Mac one. Can I get one of those beta keys? She was like, all right, sure. Well, we'll send you another the Mac one when it comes out, and we'll leave you with the Windows one in case you want to play it. I'm like, well, you don't need to because I can't play it, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, I'll take it.
So whatever. So then I think there was like another Windows beta, and they sent me another key. Once again, still don't have a Windows PC. Thanks. Then the Mac one comes out, and my key it kept coming up as invalid.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So I emailed them again, trying to tell them like I want to jump on this beta.
Right.
My key's not working. What do I do? A week after the beta ended, they sent me an email saying, since I hadn't sent any emails, they were closing that customer support help issue, and they hope they helped. And I sent them back an email going, no one responded. And they just sent me another email saying, have a good day. And I was like, wow, that is the worst customer service on an MMO I've ever encountered, ever.
They're closing, assholes, yeah.
Well, and I did hear other people with that issue, and from what I gathered, it was just a problem where they had so many of those that they couldn't respond in time.
Mm-hmm.
So after the beta was over, they just let the automated system take care of the remaining queries so they could keep working on other stuff.
See,
Which,
and I like World of Warcraft, but I had a lot of billing problems with World of Warcraft, and at least with Blizzard, when I told them I had a problem, most of the time they got on it, and they got on it right away.
Right.
I don't really know that I want to spend my time with the Elder Scrolls MMO if I know that I'm going to have a problem and no one's going to get back to me at all.
Well, I don't think that's an actual issue with them overall. I think that was an issue based on the volume of the beta participants and the people they had left over able to help with those issues. I'm pretty certain once the actual game comes out, you shouldn't have any problem actually getting help should you need it. But from what I've seen of the game in its current state, it should work fine at launch and you shouldn't have any issues. So,
well, you know me, I love Elder Scrolls, so I'm definitely going to give it a shot, even if it's just a free trial. I got to give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a terribly big Elder Scrolls fan. Like I said, the only one I actually played was Skyrim, and mostly I did that because I'm a big, and I'll get to it in my video game bits, but I'm a huge Fallout fan. So, I mean, I was like, well, Skyrim's kind of like Fallout with swords and sorcery. So,
right.
I am literally staring at a Skyrim map right now. I have all the maps in my room somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, I want to check it out at least just to see if it's anything comparable to like a multiplayer version of Skyrim, so.
It is to a point.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't play exactly like Skyrim because it's based on skills, like World of Warcraft style skills.
Right.
But you can play in first person mode. The weapons, the world, the quests,
right.
That all works like Skyrim.
Okay.
Now, granted, it's not like you walk by a guy in a bar and he gives you a mission.
Right.
Passively.
Right.
But as far as like you go through a dungeon and collect an item and fight a,
boss or whatever, yeah.
And that part is all, that'll be familiar. So I think if that's all you're really hoping to get out of it, you'll be happy.
Okay.
But if you want Skyrim with more players, that's not what you're getting. Okay. You are still getting an MMO.
Okay.
It's an MMO-ass MMO.
Well, yeah, I mean, I figured they'd have to tack on some of that kind of stuff just because it would make more sense in terms of, it being an MMO. I mean, there's some mechanics you're just not going to get away from, so I mean...
Well, not only that, but, Bethesda historically, if you look at all of the Elder Scrolls games that have come out, when they wanted to do something that wasn't exactly like the rest of the games in the main series...
Right.
They made it an offshoot completely. Because you had the travel games, and, those cell phone games were nothing like, Skyrim was. You had Redguard, which was more of a platformer, and then you had Battlespire, which was just a dungeon crawler with nothing else from the main games in it.
Yeah, and that's the thing with them in general, is it just seems like when they try to do, I guess you could say when they try to do something new and different, it doesn't always work.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm happy with that because they don't ever fuck with the main series. The main series just gets better and better, and they just improve on what they have. And when they want to do something that could really screw up the franchise, they make it a side game.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's
and I'm fine with that. That's great.
Yeah, it's like you've got your main TV show, and then you have a couple of little spin-off series or like a webisode thing just kind of there. You can check out if you feel like it,
Yep.
And that's kind of the genius thing about that. But I mean, even then, I'm sure that some people that might be their first experience, and it would turn them off. So it's that catch-22,
Yeah.
Yeah. When all the other companies were losing a ton of money and going out of business, Bethesda was building a new studio and spending money on doing multiple games at once. So I honestly don't think they're using this MMO as a way to attract new players anyway. Most of the people that are probably going to turn away from whatever MMO they're playing to turn towards the Elder Scrolls one are probably people that already enjoy the Elder Scrolls in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. Or as somebody who might just be plain out, burned out on World of Warcraft and want to try something, at least new and a little more.
Well, and I think that is kind of their one big misstep.
Yeah.
Is, while it's not coming out at the exact same time, it's launching fairly close to the new World of Warcraft expansion. And no matter what anyone wants to say, that's going to pull away a lot of potential ESO players.
Yeah. Although, on the other hand, there's a bunch of people I know who play WoW or whatever that are so totally burnt out on it. Like, the people who aren't like hardcore raiders and all that kind of junk, who are just plain burnt out with the whole storyline and the way it's going. But that's kind of what I'm saying is, like, they'll go and take a break from WoW and try ESO, but then they'll have fresh new content in WoW to go back to. Right. So they have a reason to leave ESO, and then I don't think they'll go back.
Yeah. I don't know. Everyone everywhere seems to be like progressively less excited about an expansion pack since Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah.
Well, that's like when Wrath came out, you heard about it everywhere. It was on every website. It was even in like entertainment magazines and shit. Like everyone was talking about it. And then every expansion since then, it's just been like...
At this point, everybody's just kind of burnt out on MMOs as a genre entirely.
Yeah.
So, I'm just kind of shocked to see ESO come out at all.
Yeah.
And then there's also WildStar coming out around, a few months apart, which I didn't like at all.
I have no idea what that is.
It's another... It's like an anime-esque MMO. It looks cartoony.
Does it has more of a sci-fi theme?
It's extremely sci-fi theme. Okay. And it has interesting mechanics and an interesting thought behind it.
Right.
And I know I can't say a ton about that game.
Right.
But I won't be playing that one from what I've seen of it. I'm not interested.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of interested people out there for that one.
I mean, I've heard bits
but I'm just shocked to
there,
see big subscription-based MMOs still coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at this point, I thought we had completely left behind the $15 a month model and moved on to free-to-play with microtransactions. But clearly that's not the case. There's still people out there thinking they're going to get 10 million subscribers for $15 a month.
Yeah, because I mean, even once Secret World went free to play, I was kind of like, this is probably what everybody's going to do from now on.
Well, and
I don't mind paying for it for a while. And some companies have purposefully done it for just the first year or so.
Yeah,
right.
just so
they knew they would have enough money to keep up with the servers for a long time. But I don't mind paying for an MMO. My problem is if I have to pay for something that plays and works like shit.
Right.
Like, I don't mind paying the $15 for ESO as long as it isn't crashing and I don't have to, make a bunch of reports. Like, it better be solid.
Yeah, because that's one of the nice things about World of Warcraft is, it still has that subscription model, but their customer service is freaking top-notch.
Yep.
Well, the game is just... It's a solid game as far as gameplay, but it's a rock solid game as far as running.
Yeah,
like you could play that with a fucking large potato.
I was gonna say you can play it with that potato GLaDOS from Portal 2. I could play it on my system, and I've been talking about mine dying a slow, horrible death. I could still play it.
To give you perspective, my mom is still using a laptop that I bought in 2005, an iBook G4.
Wow.
And that will still run World of Warcraft.
Nice.
But it isn't even supported by fucking Google Chrome at this point, or Mozilla Firefox.
Yeah.
You can't read Gmail or Yahoo Mail on it.
Jesus.
And you can still play World of Warcraft on it.
Yeah. So, as much as people might want to shit on, World of Warcraft and everything,
there's
can't
a lot
deny
to be said.
Yeah, you can't deny it. They have top-notch customer service, and, They can appeal to everybody from guys who are still running, like me, I'm still running that NVIDIA GTX 285.
Yeah.
Which is an old card now. You probably can't even buy one now unless you go on eBay or some shit,
Right, right. But speaking of which, there was actually a price drop for the Xbox One.
Really?
They are...
Really, honey?
Loud noises.
Sorry.
Really?
I didn't know it was a video. My bad.
Facebook.
It's not Facebook, it's Instagram.
So, Xbox One is launching a bundle that is a Titanfall Xbox One that comes with a copy of the game for $400. Now, that's kind of crazy to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting a console for almost the same price as a PS4. I think it might actually be $430. It's a $60 game.
But it's basically $100 off of the initial launch version, yeah.
Yeah.
It launched initially they dropped the price over in the UK originally, and then they announced this Titanfall bundle.
So it's like they dropped it $100 and gave you a $60 game on top of it.
Yeah.
So even then you're still coming out like at least
$160 ahead.
Right.
And that's not the end of it. They also announced full Twitch TV integration. Which is what I streamed that video game tournament on. I'm a huge fan of Twitch, and that's probably the one thing that could sway me to buy an Xbox One.
Right.
Granted, I still won't because I have a laptop that I can stream Twitch to my 40-inch TV to.
But the fact that you still could on that is not a bad selling point.
It absolutely is a good option. And I think they've done a pretty good job of staying responsive to the community. I think they were pretty well stuck with what they had because of hardware and cost restrictions.
Right.
Granted, I'd still like to see them drop the price another $100 and remove the Kinect.
Yeah.
But they can't just rip out the hardware.
Right.
The software of the Kinect is built into the way the system works.
I was going to say, they've got it integrated now.
Yeah,
so
there's no way to just rip that out of there.
Yeah, so it'd be basically a brand new version of it.
It would be a whole different system.
Yeah.
So that's why we haven't seen that. And I think we will see that probably the end of the year this year around Christmas.
If that happens, I would love to pick one up.
Yeah.
These are always still way too expensive. I still have my Kinect from the 360, and that was the worst thing I bought. I haven't used it at all. I didn't realize how much space I needed for it to exist.
Yeah.
It's still that way.
Well, we got it initially because we ended up getting rid of our Nintendo Wii, and we ended up picking it up for... I know my wife wanted to use it to do like the Zumba stuff on.
Well, the Zumba, and then they had like a boxing game that I really wanted to get.
Yeah, I wanted to do the UFC personal trainer on there because I heard that was really good.
Yeah, so
if I'm gonna do something along the lines of working out, I want to at least do something like that, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so I just thought it would be.
Whereas Kinect Adventures is a hell of a freaking workout in and of itself. So,
yeah, and that comes with it. And,
you're right.
And I mean, you're jumping around, you're moving around, stuff like that. But I mean, we just never. Kind of after we got it, we never really used it, and we never really got the programs that we wanted to get with it. So
right.
The only thing I still use it for is my headset broke, so it's acting as
built-in mic. Yeah,
that's all I use it for.
No, I mean, hey, at least you're still getting something out of it versus just like it pretty much sitting behind our entertainment center.
Stop. Yeah.
Well, the kids, anytime they see something new, it's ooh, what's this? Let's throw it around and break it.
Right,
Yeah. But, I mean, as far as video games go, I spent most of my time on Eve. I played a round of Counter-Strike, but I just wasn't really in the mood to play a shooter.
Yeah. I got Counter-Strike Go now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
We'll have to play some.
Yes, we will.
But, yeah, I mean, I didn't play a whole lot of video games this past week. I was pretty busy, preoccupied with baby stuff.
Yeah, obviously.
As well, you know, just other stuff. Like, I've been busy with Cigar Club stuff and just...
Yeah,
we've been doing a lot for the podcast recently.
It's been a hell of a weekend, so...
It has, for sure. It didn't even feel like a weekend in the least.
Yeah, I feel bad on one hand, but it's like I was just so bummed out this weekend with all the shit going on. Like I said, between that going on, my truck's starting to have issues now. It's like, great, everything before we go to Disney World wants to come out of the woodwork and piss me off, you know?
Yeah, well, and we thought we would have to spend our vacation money on that, too. So it was kind of a saving grace for your dad to help us.
Yeah, but now with my truck having issues, it's like, I don't know, I might end up having to dip into it anyway, because I would like to get this brake issue thing going on settled, especially because I have to drive to and from Auburn. I really don't need to break down on fucking 69 at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then have to call into work and all that shit.
Have the zombies come out and get you.
No, I'm more worried about the deer after the last fucking time I went up there.
I did see a bunch of deer this week. I think they've finally...
Came out of the woodwork because of the weather.
Yeah, it's warmed up and there's nobody hunting them anymore. We've moved on to spring turkey season at this point. Which is another thing I'm excited about for a kid. Kind of hoping for a boy, because it would be awesome to take my son hunting.
But you can still take your daughter hunting, too. There's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all, and I absolutely would. but it's just, I don't know, I feel like a boy's interest would line up more with my personal interests, just in general.
I mean, hell, I got Samantha, 4 years old. She loves fucking Batman. So I mean, hey.
And that's the awesome thing.
She doesn't give a shit about Batgirl, which is even funnier.
So, and here's the great thing. Regardless of boy or girl, we've actually pretty well decided at this point the baby room or nursery, whatever you want to call it, is going to be Star Wars themed.
Awesome.
We're going to have lightsabers for the lights by the bed.
Awesome.
And have an R2-D2 trash can, and it's going to be pretty badass. Pretty excited about the baby room, which is something I never thought I'd be saying.
Hey, man, the littlest things can come up, and, you would never think, I mean, Angie will tell you, she's seen me play with the girls, and she's just like, I never thought you would do that,
Right.
So.
But, yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun to think about, carrying on the geekery to my children.
Yeah.
And originally, like, I always thought, like, if I ever had kids, I would go on and, I would want them to be involved in, like, tabletop games and that sort of thing, and board games.
But you can still get them involved in that, too, yeah.
But now I'm like, man, I really just don't want to be a part of any of that anymore.
You don't really, you're not, and that's the thing, especially for these first, like, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 years or whatever, you're not really going to be able to, I mean.
Well, I don't know about 15 years, I mean.
Well, I'm just saying, like right now, our kids are so rambunctious, it's like, I don't know when they're
having them sit and be calm at a tabletop game is not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just figuring out how long it's going to take. But I mean, I know one day we will probably have like family game nights, and I'll break out like the zombies and the Arkham Horror and all that kind of shit. But I mean, right now they're just, they're too young. They're way too young for it, and they're just, they're not interested. I mean, my daughter actually is, lately I've been letting her play games on my Kindle Fire, and she's digging it.
That's all she wants to do.
Yeah, it is.
From the time she wakes up till the time she goes to bed. Can I play on the Kindle? Can I play on the Kindle? Can I play on the Kindle?
I want to play on the tablet. I want to play on the tablet. Yeah. She even knows what a tablet is. Come on.
Well, and that's kind of one of the crazy things I've been thinking about now is, like, how different things are. And, like, one of the things I've always wanted to do, like, long before there were tablets and smartphones.
Right.
Which I know my kid's going to have, like one of those leapfrog tablets, I'm sure.
I'd go with, I'd actually go, there's one they've been showing on commercials, not so much now, but like before Christmas they were showing one called a Nobby.
Yeah.
Which that one I'm thinking we might have to get for Samantha just because it looks like it actually is built with an OtterBox type case.
Yeah.
So it's not going to get damaged,
Yeah, I was looking at those at Costco this weekend, actually.
And with that, you can actually download games to it.
But that's the thing, too, though. I mean, this is like 3-4 years down the road.
Right, yeah.
So I'm sure there'll be something
bigger and better things by then.
Yeah. But one of the things I absolutely have always known that I want to have for my kids is I want to go and get all of my old game consoles. And before I ever let them play PC games even, I want to let them play Super Nintendo and play the original Super Mario.
We got the original Xbox in there, and we were letting Samantha play with the Crash Bandicoot Nitro Kart, their version of Mario Kart. And they were having fun with that.
And like my Nintendo 64 and play like, Perfect Dark is a bad example because it's a shooter, but like, Diddy Kong Racing.
Right.
Paperboy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of retro-style games that I want my kids to play.
Zombies ate my neighbors.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Donkey Kong even and Pac-Man.
I was a big...
Did you say you hate that game?
No, I love it.
Oh, I was going to say.
Zombies Ate My Neighbors? Like, I still play that game.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like Aladdin. Oh my god, I loved Aladdin.
I had emulators on my PC. I was playing Michael Jackson's Moonwalker for Sega.
I don't play that, but...
Hey, that's a good game, damn it.
My favorite Sega game was
Sonic
the Hedgehog.
Yeah, my wife loves that too.
And then with the actual original Nintendo, it was Super Mario. And I also loved, obviously, the Street Fighter games and all that. So.
Did anybody ever have a what was it, Sega CD or no, Saturn, whatever the
Sega
hell.
Saturn, yeah. I never had one of those.
I knew someone that had one.
You'll get a good idea about how Sega Saturn and Jaguar and all that shit worked because he did do a review series on that.
Man, I remember I had like a Power Rangers game on that where it was like half like there would be awkward scenes from like part of the show or something, and then the shitty graphics and weird.
Because they were like trying to do their own version of the full motion video games when that was a big
it was like
boom
Command
in the
and
90s.
Conquer style FMVs.
Yeah, it was almost like Phantasmagoria and the Tex Murphy series, which I so can't wait for the new Tex Murphy game. Oh God, give it to me now.
If I had a nickel.
Yeah, exactly.
Gonna say, is he gonna come or what?
That's how the children have.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, as far as me and video games go, lately I've come to the decision I want to head back out to the wasteland, so I just reinstalled New Vegas. I
play those games about once a year, just because I feel like I need to justify my ability to buy Bethesda products from their store. Like, I always want the Vault 101 hoodie, and
you should get the tracksuit. I want to get the tracksuit and the sneakers.
I think you could wear those. I don't think I could wear those.
You could, but actually that's another thing I wanted to mention too. You could, but you'd be like the guy in the Nuka Break. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That series? I just watched it this week, and I'm like, oh God, I love this series. I wish it was longer.
For fuck's sake, Andrew. If I had a nickel.
It's gonna be one of those podcasts.
But yeah, I just started watching that this week, and I'm like, man, I love this, And I love the story they came up with for the guy he was in one of the vaults that their little experiment was everybody had food, but they didn't have any exercise equipment, so everybody in the place got fat.
Yeah.
Except this one guy who was chunky, but he wasn't fat, so they called him Twig because he was the skinniest of the fat people.
You know what he doesn't wish was longer, Angela? Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds.
God damn it! I thought we already filled our quota of Green Lantern when I mentioned it earlier.
No. You can never have too much.
Never gonna
God
happen.
damn it. Oh, I'm still hoping for Idris Elba. Anyway. But no, I decided to do that. I ended up getting back into it. I started downloading a few mods for it. Just because I that's one of the things I do kind of hate about that game. There's so many awesome mods out there. I could spend more time messing with mods than I do actually playing the game.
Well, but that's how those games keep running. Like, even Skyrim, I see people every week playing an entirely new mod that changes the game 100%. And, like, it was less than a month ago, I went and played through, like, 15 levels of that game again, just to check out a mod. Like, I literally spent, like, a week playing the game, maybe a little less than that. And a week for me is, like, 5 hours, but, just to check out a mod. Like, literally, I didn't have any intention of finishing the game. I just wanted to
check out and see how this mod worked.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's the thing for me. I think Bethesda is the new 3D Realms for me.
Yeah.
Because 3D Realms, like with Shadow Warrior, and then even Monolith, even though they used a version of the build engine for Blood, I mean, those games were like my staples.
Right.
Even now, I'll still load up, Blood every once in a while, just because I really wish somebody would fucking buy the rights or whatever they got to do, and like either come out with a revamped version of Blood or just another sequel. I love those games. I know I don't think you probably played them much, Zero, but
there was only one Monolith game that I ever really cared about, and I still play it. It's Shogo.
Yeah.
Oh, don't even mention that game. I fucking love that game.
Yeah.
That's still one of the best games I've ever played, and like it was short. I left a bunch of crap out of it, but
I still remember the day I went and bought the bundle of Shogo and Subterra Core at Walmart.
Oh.
It was the weird, like, open up double case, cardboard case.
Yep.
Like, I fucking specifically remember, like, it's one of those vivid childhood memories of, like, I remember the entire day. And I didn't even like Subterra Core. Like, that was a pretty terrible game.
It got kind of good, but you had to get really
far into it to appreciate it. And I did eventually beat it. Like, I played the shit out of it just because, like, I only got a few games here and there during that period of time.
Yeah.
But I probably spent like 1,000 hours or something ridiculous in Shogo.
I was gonna say, I had a birthday memory where my father took me to Best Buy and gave me like a spending limit, and said, here, go get what you want. And so I ended up picking up excuse me, a VHS copy of Phantom of the Opera, the silent version, and Duke Nukem 3D, the full version. Because I'd only played like the little shareware version before that, so I was like, I want to pick up the full version, and I actually for a long time still had the cover art from the box because I just cut the cover part off, and I put it because I had those binders when I was in school that had the little clear like fronts so you could put whatever pictures you wanted. So I just took that and put it in the front of my binder.
Yeah. Oh, and that reminds me, one of the other games we talked about while we were at the Cigar Club meeting, we talked about Postal.
Ooh. They had a sale on that last week. I would have loved to pick it up, but on the other hand, I've already played it, so it's like, why bother?
Yeah, Rex actually asked me if I had seen the Postal movie, and then we got to talking about the games and like how you would piss green when you got gonorrhea from regaining your health from the hookers, and it's just like, holy shit.
Did you ever play the third one?
No, I played 1 and 2.
I heard they were coming out with it, but I never got a chance to play it. I didn't even know it actually got released. So
it was really bad. I was actually trying to get I was trying to go like intern over there, and they ended up not being able to do it because they had all these problems right when it came out. I guess the people that they were having publish it in Russia, put it out early and put out like a beta version of it as well. We're just selling it on shelves, and it screwed up their release dates on Steam, and then Steam had legal problems. And
I did play, I don't know what version, but I did play an online-only version of Postal. I don't know if it was like a limited release, or maybe it was just a beta that never actually launched. But I did play an online-only version that was kind of like playing Quake Live with really, really shitty controls. And bad lag. But I remember that it was not a good experience, and I was like, well, I might give this a try, and then I tried, and I was like, no, thank you, and I haven't really revisited it since.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing about Postal is compared to like Duke or Blood or something is that the main protagonist is like, he's interesting, but he's kind of hard to get behind sometimes. For me, anyway. I mean, I don't know, maybe I have weird standards, but...
Yeah, he doesn't have any real redeeming qualities that you can identify with. Whereas, like, Duke Nukem, at least, is just a badass, and you want to see him win.
Right, exactly. I mean, he pretty much, like, that character harkens back to the old 80s, badass action heroes.
Right.
So,
Whereas the Postal dude is just like, well, he's eventually going to go down.
He's a badass, but he's basically just kind of a redneck schlub, Right. A redneck ginger schlub.
Yeah, which Rex reminded me of something. Gary Coleman was in the Postal movie, which I totally had forgotten about, and
was he in the Postal movie or the game?
No, he wasn't in the movie. He was in the game.
Okay,
I thought he was in the movie.
No, it was him. He was in like the first and second game, I believe, and then they were going to put him in the movie. And I don't think he had died at this point yet. I think there was just something, and he didn't end up taking the role, and they got. Who was it? It's like a little black midget dude. He's really popular. I cannot fucking remember.
The one that was on Bad Santa?
Yes.
Yeah, that's who it was.
That dude.
Can't remember that dude's name, but yeah.
I can't either, but I love him every time.
That's my favorite Christmas movie, by the way.
I know, I love that movie. That's why, as soon as he said Black Midget, I was like, Bad Santa.
I'd go even far back and say he did have a little guest starring role in Blank Man as well, so...
You just go back too far. Nobody remembers the shit that you bring up.
I know. It's true, nobody does. I mention shit and people are like, huh? I'm like, never mind.
I took one.
Never mind.
The fuck's next on the list?
Thief. Thief was released.
Fuck that game. I watched the Giant Bomb Quick Look, which, Zero, I'm sorry.
Like your sad face on bad reviews so far.
You don't appreciate Giant Bomb, I know. But the reason I like Giant Bomb Quick Looks, even though they're not quick, they're usually like an hour to 2 hours. The reason I like those is because you get to see how the game actually plays. Like, they don't just cut around to random parts of the game. They play like a solid hour of a game.
Yeah, it's not like a game trailer preview.
That's honestly the most honest review you can get of a game is to watch someone play it or to play it yourself.
I'll give you that.
So I watched them play like a good 35, 40 minutes of that game. It has like zero redeeming qualities. Like it looks like Dishonored. So the graphics they're the last generation graphics. So they're not like the Rambo game that just came out.
Yeah.
I laughed at that.
The Angry Joe Rambo review is the best thing I've seen in a while.
That.
I actually have that in my wish list on Steam.
You should remove that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Did you watch this?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you should watch it.
You'll be quickly removing that game from your wish list.
Because I was watching it going,
it literally looks like a
worse?
PlayStation 1 game.
Oh, it's bad.
It's an on-rail shooter.
Okay, since we're talking Angry Joe, is it as bad as that biker gang? What is it? Was it Redemption or whatever the hell it was?
Story-wise, no, because it is word for word identical,
to
literally,
the first movie?
To the first 3 movies.
Okay.
Like, they literally just tore the entire dialogue out of the movies.
Okay, so
and they had an intern recite it.
Yeah, they wanted to have...
Stallone do it.
Do it, but Stallone refused.
Yeah,
and then
bad.
he showed a picture of Stallone in the movie going, just let it go. Just let it
go.
Yeah,
when he has the knife at the guy's throat, and he's like, let it go.
Yeah.
He walks away.
What Thief is this? Which, are we up 4, or?
The newest one is
it's
just
supposed
Thief.
to be a reboot of the entire franchise,
it's just
I guess.
Thief.
So, yeah.
It's the first Giant Bomb video.
I'm just like YouTubing.
Yeah. If you just go to the Giant Bomb YouTube channel, it's the first video.
Or one of the first anyway. They might have put up another one since then. But.
Yeah. But, like, that game, it's basically just a stealth game. Like, that's all it is.
Yeah. I mean, like you were saying with Dishonored, that's what I got watching the game trailers review of it.
But at least Dishonored had competent combat.
Right.
All you can do in Thief is either knock a guy out with a billy club or run away and hope you don't get killed before you climb up a wall.
Right.
That's the entire suite of mechanics in that game.
Right.
You can shoot people with a bow and then hide until your warning level goes down.
So it wants to be Splinter Cell, but it fails.
It's like a crossover between Dishonored and Assassin's Creed.
Is the whole game this dark? Holy shit.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
The entire game is bland and dark.
And
the lighting is terrible, which is something that should be key in that game that's based on lighting. It's just a bad game. Like, it had a decent objective in rebooting that franchise.
The shadows are your friend. Yeah, when they're every fucking where.
But that's the thing. You can follow the shadows and just sit there and, like, guys will walk by you.
And not even notice you, yeah.
But the problem is, if a guy walks around, like, they went to the trouble of making it so that light would reflect off of characters. So if the light reflects off of an enemy and shines on you somehow,
they notice you.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And then people can pull lanterns out of their ass. So it defeats the whole stealth mechanic of the game, which is the entire point of the game.
This looks absolutely horrible.
And that's the thing, is the mechanics are clunky on top of it. So imagine Assassin's Creed,
but with shitty controls,
where you fall all the time.
Right.
It's a bad game. Like, there's not a lot else to say. Like, go and watch a quick look. Go watch somebody do a Let's Play on YouTube.
Even go watch the game trailers review. They even gave it like a 7.6, which I think is generous.
Which is high for them.
Yeah.
Like, that's high, and that's low for them.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bad game. There's not a lot more to say.
Can you just shoot a fiery arrow at a fire to make it go out? What the hell?
And essentially, the whole point of the game is to collect a bunch of shit.
Right, yeah, that's what I noticed.
That's your objective.
Well, that's the thing. I don't mind that, like Tomb Raider, I understood because it's Tomb Raider that you have to go searching for shit. But that was optional. You could go back and do that later if you didn't want to. Here's
the thing. You're essentially a hoarder that is a thief.
Right.
You are the worst possible person on the planet.
Right.
In a bad version of the world.
Right.
Like, that's the best case scenario in that game.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to say for that.
That's sad. I had high hopes for it, but then again.
I didn't particularly love the original. Like, I appreciated it for what it was.
I couldn't even play the original.
Most people couldn't.
I got to the tutorial and I couldn't even get past that shit.
Like, I spent enough time on it because, like I said, I didn't get a ton of games.
Yeah. I got it. I think I got it for free or something somewhere.
But I just was like, I'd rather just not play video games than play this eventually. Like, I went through a streak of really shitty games, and I remember that being the pinnacle.
Right.
So I wasn't super excited about that game at all.
Well, I was kind of hoping that, like, with, them trying to reboot it in a new studio, they would have, like...
They could have done great things with it, but honestly, Dishonored is a better Thief than Thief is.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if you got that itch, that's the best you can do to scratch that.
Yeah. I'd say just go ahead and reload fucking Fallout and be a thief in that game. You'd probably be better off.
Or Skyrim, for that matter.
Yeah,
Skyrim is a better thief game.
Yeah. Especially if you really want that whole, like, medieval arrows and shit type setting, yeah.
Or even daggers, like fucking backstab bitches.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I always play a thief archer in Skyrim. It's so easy to get through every part of the game.
Yep.
I had mods, so I had the dwarven power armor and shit. So I was playing a warrior with that shit. So
what's next on the list?
The only other item of business I had was Wolfenstein New Order. Ooh. They just came out with a brand new trailer.
If you pre-order that, you get beta access key
to the new Doom game.
To the new Doom,
which is interesting.
Doom 4.
Yeah. But, I mean, I didn't even know Doom actually got sold off to Bethesda. I was kind of surprised. I figured that was still an id thing because Doom 3 came out under id, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to see Wolfenstein and Doom under the same...
Yeah. I mean, Wolfenstein and Duke makes sense, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw the trailer, and I gotta say, it looks interesting. I kind of dig the setting. I like the idea that it's kind of that alternate history kind of deal.
The last one was kind of bad, but it wasn't the worst thing either.
I didn't even play it. That's how
I mean, it was.
I played Return to Castle Wolfenstein. That was the last one I played.
It was a generic, competent shooter, which I didn't expect more. The story just didn't hold up. Mm-hmm. Like that was its biggest downfall for me, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of excited about it. I don't know that I'm going to be playing much of it because at this point.
There's so much other shit
I feel like an old man that I'm like MMOs are kind of my speed now.
Right.
And EVE is kind of my speed where the skill I'm training now has a 1 day and 20 hour time on it.
Jesus.
It's the third skill you learn.
God.
Like if you thought the fucking like iPhone games where it's like come back in a day and build this new building were bad.
Yeah, the casual games,
Yeah. This is like come back in 2 days so you can learn the next skill that takes 3 days.
That's part of the reason that pissed me off with that Adventure World that they had on Facebook. I love that game, but I hated the fact that I couldn't do anything in it without all the energy and shit you needed.
And then I did see I need to send it to you. There's a video for the new Marvel character. I believe it's Moon Knight.
Yeah, I was.
I don't know how interested you are in that particular character.
Moon Knight is definitely one of those characters that, like, unless you really are a comic book geek or whatever, you probably have no fucking clue who that is.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Speaking of comics, my wife started binge-watching Comic Book Men on Netflix.
Yay!
So I was kind of happy about that.
Oh, yeah.
And she's kind of excited now to get the copy of Quiver that I ordered. I pre-ordered a copy of that from Kevin Smith. And she's like, oh, can you get him to sign it? And I was like, I'll try.
I'm actually I'm hoping that you enjoy it because I know like you being a Kevin Smith fan and you're trying to get into like at least the comics in general, that would probably be a good jumping off point. Well, the only other one I could recommend, it kind of has somewhat of a disappointing ending, but Kevin Smith did do a run on Spider-Man for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, which it wasn't bad, but
I don't know that I'll do that because I've never been much of a Spider-Man fan.
The story was interesting because it didn't deal so much with Spider-Man, it dealt more with Black Cat, so.
Yeah. I always kind of got more out of Spurter-Man on Twitter.
Spurter-Man.
Wow.
Which is basically like Spider-Man saying things like the Fry Girl.
Derp.
Like, imagine the McDonald's Fry Girl is Spider-Man. That's what that is.
Spider-Man.
Yes.
Spider-Man.
If you're not, go follow Spider-Man on Twitter.
Would you like boys with the whipping?
I found an interesting article while we were talking, by the way, where apparently rapper Ice-T did an audiobook set in the world of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, he did, and people were saying that he was hating on D&D, but apparently he's actually a fan.
Well, he wasn't saying so much that he hated it. He was just saying it was impossible to read. Like, every word you said was something made up, and none of it made any damn sense.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Which, yes, it is true. It doesn't mean he hates it.
Not
It's just
inaccurate.
I was gonna say, if you really want a fucking adventure, you got to read some of the fucking Star Wars books.
Yeah, that's true.
But he
Have the Han Solo trilogy read by Ice-T. There you go.
He also ended it by saying, considering the way music is right now, you're probably better off listening to the book.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad and true.
It is. Oh, God. Oh, good times. Well, Angela, I know, has some interesting, pertinent gaming
I'm starting
articles.
to think you might be a feminist.
No, I was just... See, because we always talk about, I guess, boy things.
So now it's time for games with tits.
Yes. Well, no, not even.
Not
games with
boobs.
estrogen.
And you know what? People are going to be like, oh, God.
Here we go.
No, and I didn't want to bring... No, I didn't want to bring up, like, Barbie. Barbie has a new game out.
No, thank God.
Probably
No.
not.
She probably does.
I would slap you in a non-fun way, honey.
I'd still get off.
Giggity.
No, so I was actually looking up like women and gaming, you know, like women in video games, and you know, I actually have like women that are behind video games too to go over as well. But
one of the names I actually kind of like, ooh, because she actually had something to do with the Duke Nukem games. So.
Yeah, so you know, I'm not the first thing that I have is video game sexism, which I can understand because you know, a lot of the video games out there are you know.
Boy-centric, yeah.
You know,
Boy-centric.
made for men. And, you know, most of the people that you see that buy video games are men. Mm-hmm. And they don't really see that women are playing these video games as well. And things like that. Mm-hmm. So, I ran across a few articles as I'm looking around. I didn't really, like, intend on doing a sexism article, but I thought it was interesting.
The only thing I have to say, honey, is you need to watch Hey Ash, What You Playing?
Yeah.
Because you will dig it, especially for Ashley, because she's fucking hilarious.
But I came across a few articles, and in the first one it says, How to Fight Sexism in Gaming, Get Men to Play Female Characters.
I play Tomb Raider.
I know.
I always play female characters in MMOs.
Just because you want to have a nice ass in your face.
Yes, because I don't want to look at a guy's ass for, 60 hours.
My problem is I'm so used to doing, like, tabletop, like, games and stuff, so if I'm trying to actually role-play my character, it's really hard for me to do that because I'm a guy. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the same, like, when I read books and stuff, a lot of the times it's hard for me to get behind a female character because...
Giggity.
Yeah, it's hard for me to... put my mind in, okay, I'm a woman,
Yeah.
Like when I'm reading a book, so.
He constantly makes me in video games. Like the ones that you can make your own character. It's like, look, honey, look, I made you. And I'm like, oh, okay.
No, thank you.
Like $3, so yes.
Thank you.
So, it's pretty much, they were noting that, in this article, they were noting that of the 13 new games unveiled for the Xbox One, they presented exactly 0 games featuring a female protagonist for the next generation.
Yeah.
And...
Well, they screwed Perfect Dark in Xbox 360, so otherwise she probably would still be kicking around like...
Yeah.
Just like Lara Croft,
And it says, like, it incited the typical response from some members of the gaming community. Yeah, maybe if more women actually played video games, you dumb cunt. And I was like, yeah...
Well, excuse me, there's tons of women who play video games.
Yeah.
The problem is...
Here's the thing, there are, but that tons adds up to actually a very small number.
Right.
When you really look at it.
Well, it says 45% of gamers are actually female, and 46% of the most frequent game purchasers are female. Now, whether or not they're purchasing the games for
their
themselves...
boyfriends or
well,
whatever.
Well, not only that, you also have to consider when they call someone a gamer, they can be talking about Farmville.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very subjective term depending on how you actually define gamer.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of those polls are taken including mobile games, and mobile games don't really count.
It's not that you're not a gamer if you only play Farmville. It's that you're a different kind of gamer.
Because I've been sitting here playing Farmville while we've been... well, and that's the thing, too. It's like, people are saying that, oh, well, female protagonists just aren't that interesting, you know?
Bullshit.
Which I find stupid, too, because I think, like, a lot of the...
I would have played Anne Frank the game.
Now, if you want to talk about a stealth thief game, there you go. Make Anne Frank the video game.
But...
Could be like a combination of Gone Home and fucking Tomb Raider. There you go.
It's probably a good thing that they're not, you know, making that many female protagonists for, like, you know, big releases or anything like that, because usually when they do it based on what's going to make them the most money, and that always ends up with, like, the perfect female with the most perfect breasts,
right,
with almost no clothes on. That's what they do every time.
Yeah, or you have much that women are underrepresented, you know, like, they make them so...
To be sex pots, yeah.
So sexy, and, you know, with these perfect bodies and stuff like that, that women don't really want to play that kind of character because it's not...
They have scantily clad armor, and, you know, their tits are hanging out, whereas the men have the full...
Most of the women I know that play video games will buy it because the female protagonist is like that. But then again, like, almost everyone I know around here that's a female has experimented with another girl or is bi anyway.
Right.
And see,
they all enjoy it as much as all the guys do, so they buy it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing, is like most female gamers that I know are either like that you just said, or they are geeks, and they are...
Play like the JRPGs and shit.
Yeah, and they are actually playing, you know, MMOs and RPGs and all of that, and they are, like, skinny and very introverted, and, you know, that's all they do is play video games. So,
and there actually was a huge AAA video game release with a female protagonist. Mm-hmm. And that was Lightning Returns, the Final Fantasy game that just came out.
Right.
And that's, I think Final Fantasy is really big with women.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen a lot of women that
just
play
it.
that.
I kind of feel like the games that are put out, typically they're male protagonists because they're either A, from a generation previously and they're being rebooted.
Right.
Like, look at Thief, for example. It could be a female thief. It really wouldn't make any difference.
Yeah.
But the character in the original Thief was a guy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just... There's no real reason for them to put a female thief in the game. It works the same.
I can see why they wouldn't do that with a Duke Nukem game, because there's no way.
It wouldn't
make any sense, yeah.
Now, there's plenty of games out there where the females are just as prominent as the males.
Yeah.
Look at any of the JRPGs out there.
Yeah.
Look at the Persona games. Look at fighting games,
Look at
especially.
Bayonetta.
Yeah.
Right there.
There actually are quite a few, but the thing is, you're always going to make something that plays to your demographic.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at,
Lollipop Chainsaw.
Look at games like, I don't know, what's a medieval style game?
Other than Skyrim?
Sure, Skyrim. Like, you can be a girl, granted.
Yeah, you can.
But, when you're playing a game where the story is based on a hero that goes and fights a dragon, what do you think of? You think of a knight in shining armor,
right. Not
a girl with a sword.
Yeah, not a princess in flowing robes and a sword. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like, granted, you could just as easily make a case that, sure, a girl could go and do that. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, that's not the way culture works.
No. And that's the thing, like...
They're not doing it to purposely ignore females. It's just simply what makes more sense for what they're doing.
Well, it's like, speaking of my Steam wish list, you know, I've got Velvet Assassin on there.
Yeah.
And that game was actually based on a true-life World War II spy who was a woman. And yeah, they kind of sexified her a little bit, but I mean, it's not to the extent like she's wearing like tight leather clothing.
Well, and even when they do take a female protagonist and they make her a sex symbol,
right?
That's because it's a fucking business and they have to make money, and that does sell. Like, you can hate it as much as you want.
Again, the Tomb Raider
but
series,
the facts are going to speak louder than anything you can bitch about. You know, that cash in their fucking bank account says a lot more than your mouth.
But I mean, like Angel even tell you,
my mouth says a lot.
But see, like Angel tell you watching me play Tomb Raider. When I played Tomb Raider, the normal skin that you have for the game is the wife beater and the shorts or whatever. When I played, I actually got the DLC where she was wearing the leather bomber jacket. Because to me, she's a Tomb Raider. That's what fucking Tomb Raiders wear. Indiana Jones wears a fucking, bomber jacket, so should Tomb Raider.
Right.
I'm not interested in the sex part so much. I'm interested in the fact that this woman is out there looking for relics, beating up crazy shit, and, other people who are looking for the same relics.
Yeah.
She's a woman in the same role as Indiana Jones.
Oh, and I found another article. It's called Deep Down the Rabbit Hole of Ingrained Games Industry Sexism. And I guess Deep Down came out in a live stream event and said pretty much that it won't include female playable characters. And they claimed because the budget just wouldn't allow them to create female characters. Exactly. So it was like, they said it's double the budget if we have to do female and male characters.
Are you paying for each tit? How is it double?
How is it double? Here's the thing. In order to actually make female characters that look and act like a female character, not only do you have to make new models, you also have to make new animations, you have to record new sounds.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of money that goes into that people don't consider.
Yeah. I mean,
you can say, just give the male characters boobs and a slightly different face and hairstyle.
Men and women...
But that's not at all what goes into doing that. It is a huge cost.
Well, first of all, if you're doing, like you said, animations and stuff, a lot of the times you're going to end up doing mocap, and mocap, you have to have a woman do it, because if a man tries to do mocap...
Right. It looks like a man making the actions.
It looks like a man trying to walk like a woman, and it looks stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we're not talking about a tranny either.
No.
Transvestite, I'm sorry.
No, we're talking about Buffalo Bill Tuckin', okay? I mean, seriously, I think there was a video, actually, I forget what game it was for, but they actually they actually showed the mocap version, and it was a guy, but it was a guy moving very femininely, so, and yes, I just did...
So basically what they were saying, in order to do it correctly, it would have cost them too much money, which is a legitimate problem.
And they said...
But it also seems like a cop-out, too.
It also says that because of the plot,
which is what I was just talking about.
Why they excluded the female characters. The plot of it just apparently didn't allow for female characters and stuff like that. And so I found an article where this girl was pretty much just going off about, pretty much that future humans exploring the past encased in avatars that wield magic through dungeons filled with monsters and drawing power from emotions. Perfectly acceptable. She's pretty much saying that you can't do that. I mean, why couldn't you do that in the shape of a woman instead of in the shape of a man? That kind of thing.
Right.
It's like, in this day and age...
I was going to say, I hate to sound like the typical Cro-Magnon male here, but... If you want to have a woman dealing, if you want to have a woman dealing with emotion stealers, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking women are more emotional than men will ever be. Even some of the more, in touch with their feminine side men, come on.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, I've seen plenty of women, and she's the same. In the next sentence, she says, see related entry on men using swords the length of their own bodies for hours on end, while some jockstrap argues that women fighting isn't realistic, in quotations.
Yeah, I'd like them to say that to Ronda Rousey from fucking UFC.
Yeah.
I honestly, I wouldn't worry that much about, females in a video game. Video games should be viewed the same way books and music and movies all are. You're gonna have people with different opinions, and some of them suck.
Yeah.
If you want to see more female protagonists in video games, I think you should look more into how women are treated in the industry itself. Because I've read several reports where women are extremely underpaid and treated like shit, and they won't let them advance to the video game industry at all. And that's a much bigger problem, because if you want to see games with more female protagonists, the best thing to do would probably be hire a bunch of females, where if they can't get anywhere in the industry, that's a big problem.
But that's the thing, is you and I both know there's hardly any females interested in making video games.
Right.
We went to Full Sail.
I know
it's a low amount, but there has been a lot. I mean, there's been a big increase to a fairly dwindling industry at the moment. It's not exactly making a ton of money.
Right.
And there are more than enough women in the workplace in the video game industry, and I know that they're still having a ton of problems with that there.
No, I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying they have such a small number comparatively that they're not a vocal enough minority to really get anything done.
Or anything, yeah.
And that's the thing, too, I think pretty much the women that play video games, they aren't out there, really. I mean, they don't see...
Yeah, I mean,
they don't go to conventions. I mean, there's a lot, especially the ones that like to dress up and things like that. You'll see that at conventions and things.
They are a vocal minority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like we aren't as vocal as men are. Like, we aren't going to get out there and
right.
be in the masses, I guess.
Ultimately, you're not the majority speaking with your wallet.
Yeah.
Ultimately, men account for the larger... the lion's share of the money going into the gaming industry.
Mm-hmm.
You can argue it until you're blue in the face.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you can say 55% of men are the ones putting the money into the gaming industry.
And they pretty much are.
And you can easily make a case that 10% minimum of those females buying games are mothers buying games for their male children or girlfriends, wives buying them for their husbands or boyfriends.
Yeah.
There's no way to dispute that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sad part about it, though. I mean...
And in my eyes, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't give a shit if it's a guy or a girl in my first-person shooter.
Right.
Call of Duty Ghosts, you can be a female, and that was a big sticking point.
Yeah.
But ultimately... who really gives a shit? Because you don't see those characters other than for a split second while they die.
And I mean, even then, it's still kind of the same thing as to, like, people who troll Facebook and even back in the day, MySpace for, tail, basically, hitting on the women, and who turned out to be men. I mean, it's the same thing. It's a computer-generated avatar representing you.
A person, yeah.
So if you're not like me, who's trying to, like, quote-unquote, role-play a character or whatever... it doesn't matter. I mean, you could play a woman. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Like you said, if that's the kind of ass you want to see in your face the whole time in a third-person game, okay, fine. But, for everybody else out there, who actually wants to, see more female protagonists, it's just they haven't, society or whatever hasn't quite gotten to the level of,
Yeah, and the funny thing is there actually is a fair amount of female protagonists. I mean, look at Kerrigan from StarCraft.
Hell, look at Samus from Metroid.
Samus Aran, and I was just thinking of another one. I'll think of it as soon as I leave, but go ahead with your next story. You've got another one queued up there, or another article anyway.
Well, I've got a few. It's just I was trying to get my web pages to load while you guys are talking.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I was just kind of going into, like, the sexism, because there's women that obviously are out there in the community, and are vocal about it, and I guess a lot of the women that are like that, it kind of drives me nuts, because they're like, well, we're not represented, and stuff like that, and I know tons of video games where there's just as many women in it as there are men.
That's the thing, we're not well represented, but what are you doing to get them represented?
Yeah. So it's just like, a few games came out.
Aside from bitching and moaning that they're not represented. I mean,
yeah. A few games came out with no women characters in it.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen, obviously,
And that's the fundamental thing anyway with like a video games is outside of just the cosmetic bit of being a woman in a game, how are you playing it any differently than I would play it?
Right.
I mean, seriously, what's the fundamental difference?
Well, and that's just it. Like you said before,
Tomb Raider is still a shooter.
It's an avatar of the person playing the game. It's a representation.
Exactly.
And like Zero said, there's no reason you can't treat it like a book and imagine the character the way you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, usually by the time you put armor on whatever character it is,
it doesn't matter.
You could put plate mail on a woman and it would still look like a guy because plate mail is plate mail.
Unless, like I said, you go with that sexist,
right.
you know, sexy plate mail. With
you could make the case
and,
that a male character looks more like a female character than the ultra sexist female characters they put to look like that because it needs to be so exaggerated that you can tell.
Well, I mean, look at the power armors from Fallout. Once you put a power armor on, you don't know what the fuck's underneath there. It could be a fucking ghoul for all you know.
Right.
You know? I mean, it doesn't make any difference. But some games, like I said, will take that extra mile. Oh, we're representing women. Yeah, by having her fucking tits hanging out in fucking plate mail.
So, and Titanfall is a great example. The characters are actually extremely similar as far as the body goes. They don't have big exaggerated tits. They don't have a giant fucking ass, you know.
They're not wearing a thong into battle, yeah.
Right. They're wearing a full body suit just like the male characters.
Right.
And the only way you can tell that it's a female is they purposely didn't put a mask on their face.
Right. So they have like a ponytail or something.
No, like they have a helmet on.
Oh.
But you can see the face and it looks like a woman.
Okay.
It could be a super feminine guy, I guess. But the thing that really makes you think it's a girl is it's got a super girly pose. That's the only difference.
Right.
So really when you're playing, and I believe there is actually one that has a full face mask on, you really honestly can't tell.
Right.
Because when you look at it, female soldiers don't look that different from male soldiers.
No, they don't.
No, because most of them don't have giant tits.
Yeah.
Female soldiers are probably about, built like me. They've got some curves, but their tits are not there. So.
Right, but even then you're wearing, BDUs and then web gear and helmets and, everything else on top of that. Yeah.
Pretty much like this. You can hardly tell I'm wearing, with what I'm wearing a hoodie right now, and you can hardly see my boobs. So. Right,
so that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's that whole idea of you want to have a strong female character, but you don't want her to look like a sex pot either, because then it's just unrealistic. Right. So, but you mentioned Lanny Manila. In your other article, we were talking about women who do like voiceovers and stuff for video games.
Yeah, and I found that really interesting because she.
Which I will admit, because of Duke Nukem, I have jerked off to her a couple times. But anyway.
Is this recently?
No, not recently. This was back in the Duke Nukem like forever days, and well, actually even before.
So why did you jerk off? Since we're on the subject of jerking off,
there is a sound at the end of Duke Nukem, I believe it's Duke Nukem 3D, where he is getting his days of R&R, and he's basically getting it on with her, and she's making the,
The exaggerated sex sounds.
Yes.
The ones that are not realistic whatsoever.
Like she's being beaten with something.
It sounds good to me.
Being stabbed in a different way.
In the most pleasurable
Let me get out my combat knife.
No, like the other one, where she's actually being stabbed. Like, oh God, get it out. Pull it out. It's bleeding.
Stop.
Oh, wow.
Bloody gas.
The back of a second.
Okay, so if you haven't heard of her, but you've played any popular video game, you've heard her voice. She makes her living speaking for hundreds of video game characters. Video games like Diablo and Soul Calibur to World of Warcraft and Nancy Drew. She's voiced countless characters with seemingly boundless energy and creativity. And then I guess she's quoted to say, I can be the little kid and be innocent. If you want me to be innocent, that's cool, but to be the big bad and the ugly, that's the most fun. So she loves to do anything, pretty much.
There's a woman actually who's a very famous voice actor, Tara Strong. She actually did the voice of Batgirl in the Batman animated series. But she also did the voice of Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls. That. So, and if you've heard those two voices or even know who I'm talking about, on one hand...
Total opposite.
Yeah, complete opposites. I mean... In fact, actually, she was on Fat Man on Batman a while back and talking to Kevin Smith about it. Yeah. And he even asked her, like, do you do the voices in bed? And he's like, he really doesn't like it when I do the voices. And I'm like, yeah, I would feel a little awkward trying to have sex with Bubbles. I'm sorry. Yeah. I feel like I'm raping a child,
And she's done more than 500 video games.
I said I know the Duke Nukem ones for her specifically, but
video games.
I've done them.
And
list off some. Do they have a list?
No, it just says from Nancy Drew to more
I see
ferocious
Diablo.
characters. Yeah, the ones that I've named already pretty much is all it says. But it says that she's also a voice coach as well. So she coaches other people how to voice and director.
I did have somebody tell me I should do voiceovers once, but
yeah, you should. You do pretty good impressions. And then I guess she's going to be lending her talents to an upcoming video game called Anything with an Engine, and it's due out in the fall.
Interesting. Sounds like a car game to me, but I'm a guy, so that's where my head would go.
I think you could make a vibrator in Kerbal Space Program.
Probably. And then Jimmy Johnson Racing Legends, that's one of his games coming out.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah, so...
one of her games, anyway. Yeah.
She says go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's the chick at the beginning of California, USA, like,
Yes.
And then there's the woman behind Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
She's...
Jade Raymond, yeah.
Yeah, she works for Ubisoft.
Ubi.
She's the exact...
Ubisoft.
Yeah, she helps cut Hollywood deals as they prepare to launch new franchises, I guess. So it's Jade Raymond.
Mm-hmm.
And she pretty much does everything that they need her to do.
So she does more of the
behind
logistics.
the scenes
yeah, like putting everything together.
Which there's a lot of people. In fact, I even think they had a female producer like for the Duke Nukem Forever game too.
Well, so, that's the thing. There's actually a shit ton of women that work in the video game industry.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is they're not the actual game developers,
right?
Because what game development actually is math.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to know that because it sounds fun to say, I make video games.
Yeah, but...
What you really do is write hundreds of thousands of lines of code that are based on physics and geometry.
Yeah, one of my friends actually went to ITT to learn how to make video games, and his specialty was doing environments. So, I mean, that's pretty much all he was doing all day long was mapping out, the terrain that you're going to be running around in. Which is actually
one of the more fun parts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the people that actually figure out how, like, the Call of Duty guns work, they have the fucking most boring job in the world.
Well, hell, even the people that figure out how the lips are going to move sync to the voice.
You want to talk about fucking spreadsheets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on.
Well, it's pretty much going on to say, like, what she does and, going, I guess, back behind what Ubisoft is doing here. Like, Ubisoft has one of our daughter's favorite cartoons, the Rabbids.
Oh, yeah, Rabbids Invasion, yeah.
Yeah, our daughters love that. And it's the cutest cartoon ever.
But it's weird.
It's weird and disturbing, but... The bunnies are so adorable.
Yeah.
I totally want one of those bunnies. That's all you hear the whole time, but they're so cute.
That's all our kids do is run around and do that all day long.
I'm so sorry for you.
Wait till you get yours.
I just started playing all the Oddworld games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
funny noises, too. Oh, God.
I hope my child's like me. Mm-hmm. And doesn't really get too excited about anything, is just kind of laid back. Because even as a kid, I was pretty fucking relaxed. Like, and oh my god, I'm so excited for my child to be old enough to play Pokemon Red and Blue. Like, I might be nice and let him skip ahead to Yellow because there's a little color, but man, am I fucking excited for that.
But yeah, it also doesn't help the fact that she's just hot, because they have a picture of her sitting here playing a video game.
She's not ugly.
High-heeled leather boots. She's hot.
She doesn't have ginormous tits, but she's still hot to me.
Yeah,
she's average.
So,
she's a 7.
She's one of those
I'd
people
say 8.5.
That I'm guessing, Ubisoft is like, here, go out there and look pretty and make us look good.
Right, yeah.
So she's probably one of those, the marketing people. And then, you told me to check out.
the next bit is somebody I'm very, very familiar with, and I've met and talked with, and I don't know that I'd say I'm friends with,
but at least you're acquaintances.
I know her personally. It's Anna Prosser. Anna Prosser Robinson, I guess now. She married a professional StarCraft 2 player named Jeff In Control Robinson. And she is actually a former beauty queen. She was Miss Oregon USA in 2011.
Okay.
She's a gorgeous redhead.
Right.
And a very, very interesting person. And she is also the team manager for Team Evil Geniuses, which is a professional esports team.
And there's something you don't see every day.
That's
literally.
a pretty fucking unique match, if you ask me. So, you know, she's very prominent. And there's actually quite a few people like her. One of the things I've seen a lot of women getting into in the video games industry is the casting. Like you have, you know, sports casters, and you always have the woman on the field, you know.
Yeah. Like the one in the fucking Super Bowl that kept flipping her hair around and shit.
Except they're actually interested and good at what they do.
Right.
You know, like Rachel Kiriko, she's a very prominent caster in a lot of shooting games. There's a lot of women in that industry now. It's definitely growing, but I felt like Anna Prosser was one of the more prominent ones. And then also it's interesting because a lot of these people wrapped around that specific pair are actually in a TV show, a reality show called Ultimate Gamer by WCG.
I've heard of that show.
It was a fun show to watch. It's stupid as shit. It's a dumbass reality show.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a reality show.
But it's better than Survivor, in my opinion, because it has more interesting, you know, topic.
Right.
Do you know, side note, on Survivor, they now have the pretty group?
Really?
Yeah.
Like, there's ugly people and pretty people?
Yeah, it's like they have...
Scraping the bottom of the barrel, guys.
Yeah,
literally.
They have, like, the different groups of people on different parts of the island, and they have one called either the pretty group or the good-looking group or something like that.
I'm still saying call me when they do it found footage style with, like, hidden cameras, and it's more like Castaway the movie. Like, literally.
Yeah, I would prefer it as if they had the challenges, but if they lost the challenge, they actually killed them.
I was going to say, unless Bear Grylls is going to be the fucking, like,
or they had to
host of the show. Yeah, where they actually have to survive and eat bear shit to live.
I want them to do the challenge where they have to stand on the post in the water, but if they fall, they actually fall into a pool of hungry sharks, and they all have like cuts on their legs. Then I would watch it. Yeah. Until then, I don't give a shit.
That's not really surviving, is it? Yeah.
They're not surviving anything. Like, they're on a diet.
Yeah. Well, they have a trailer and shit, yeah.
Well, the first episode of Survivor, like, it was, I think, more realistic almost, but when people got hurt or something happened, they flew them out to a hospital, you know? Yeah. So it's like, that's not really Survivor, is it?
No.
You know? They should make them heal themselves.
That's why Fear Factor was more interesting.
And, you know.
Because they had to confront some fucked up shit, you know.
And eat some fucked up shit.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that shit.
Yeah, if you listen to Joe Rogan talk about that, like, I guess towards the end, that shit got pretty sketchy. He's like, yeah, I'm shocked we didn't have somebody die.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they had to they had to outdo the previous
They had
episode.
to make it more extreme so people would stay interested.
Yeah, so people weren't like, oh, they did that last week.
Well, and that's why they had to stop, is because it got to a point where it was either start killing people or start losing money. So they were like, well, I guess we can't kill people. It's not lucrative.
Yeah. Speaking of getting back into our show notes and cigars and stuff, I just finished my aging room M356, I guess is what the designation is, but I had one a couple days ago, and it's pretty good. I guess it was voted the top 25 94 rated cigars of 2011, so it's actually really cool. It's a pretty decent mild smoke. It does get a little bit harsh towards the end, but It's not a.
They're not
definitely
huge cigars either.
No, all the ones I got in that bundle are pretty much all Robusto size, so they're not terribly big. But I mean, it's an interesting cigar. I like the band because it has this weird brass knuckles motif through the whole thing. But it's definitely one to check out. You had some notes, Dan, about hard to find podcasts, I guess.
Yeah, I started looking for some Eve podcasts because I felt like, you know, I could listen to some other people talk about it and kind of get a feel for the overall, the economy and the world and just kind of get an idea for how the players playing the game look at it. Mm-hmm. And holy fuck, was it hard to find any podcasts. Mm-hmm. And you know why? None of those assholes put the actual title of the game in the description or the name. There are several podcasts out there. There's like 3 or 4 big ones that have like 200 plus episodes, but they don't have any descriptions. They're just numbered. So I had to go and look for Eve podcasts and find people talking about them, and then look through the comments to find people saying the name of the podcast and the game they're playing. So I found 3, and they're all like 2 and 3 hour shows, but even when you go look at them in iTunes, which is the only place they're ever at, there's no description, and some of them don't even have a length. It's just incredibly frustrating to me that people go to the effort of recording a 3 hour show, and they can't be bothered to put one number in. Yeah. Like, all they have to do is type a number in, or say, this week we talk about fucking blowing up your spaceship.
Right.
You know, or this week we talk about the economy. This week we talk about the new releases.
Right.
They don't even mention the episodes where they talk about the new expansion packs.
Right.
I just wanted to mention, like, if you go to the effort of, you know, making a podcast and creating the RSS document and doing everything required, why would you do all of that and then not make it so that people can find it?
Or at least, you know, if they're browsing, have people look and see, okay, what is this podcast about? Yeah, you have the title, but
it's not even in the description.
Yeah, that doesn't always, the title of the podcast doesn't always tell you exactly what that podcast is about, because...
But see, that's the thing, like, if it's a game-centric podcast, if you have the title of the show, like, one of the popular ones, I think, for World of Warcraft is, like, The Instance.
Yeah.
See, that at least ties into what you're looking for.
One of the bigger Eve ones that I found was called the High Drag Podcast.
Okay.
In my mind, that sounds like something more associated with
like drag
cars.
racing, yeah.
Not even so much drag racing, but like the aerodynamics of a car.
Right.
And, like, I kind of get it, sort of, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty big stretch, and I really had to look hard. I spent, like, a half hour looking up podcasts, and I found, like, 2 that I might listen to, and then 1 that just was terrible.
Yeah.
So, I don't understand how they thought people were going to listen, or maybe they just didn't want people to listen.
I'm not sure it's so much they don't want people to listen,
but
like
you don't want people to listen, why would you post it?
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't think it's so much people not wanting to listen. I think it's the fact that, like you said, Eve Online is very much like you said, kind of like.
Well, it's secretive and it's a tight knit group. But when you're producing something that's meant to be listened to by a bunch of people,
right? You want
and you
to
make it difficult
there,
to find. It's like opening a store and making the most effort you can to hide it, or at least going out of your way to make sure that there's nothing pointing people to get there.
Right, but I mean, even then, it's like if you're going to put a podcast out there, you want to get as high an audience as possible. I mean. We talk cigars, but I mean, we do video games, we do entertainment, we do other things other than cigars.
Right.
Because we want to appeal to as broad an audience as possible. Those people want to appeal to the Eve people, great. But you still should put it out there.
You have to tell people what the actual content is.
Right, you have to put it out there so that people know what you're talking about.
I mean, it's like opening a gas station and putting nothing out there.
Right.
Like, not even that. Like, it's like opening a grocery store with a building with no windows and a door.
Mm-hmm.
Like one door. So, like, imagine Costco if it only had one normal, like, you know, door, like, into your house
Mm-hmm.
and no windows.
Huh.
It looks like a factory. So you have no inclination to go in there and buy groceries.
Right.
But that's all they sell.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's ever going to go there.
Right.
And and that's what I don't understand is, like, a store would go out of business.
Mm-hmm.
These podcasts have like 300 episodes. So I don't understand like how you produce 9,000 hours of content
Mm-hmm.
with no audience. Like, who is listening to that? I'm
Right.
really curious. There's no reviews. There's nothing.
Right.
Well, I'm guessing it's either that or they're relying on word of mouth instead of...
Well, in the game maybe.
Yeah.
And that's all I can figure is since it's such like it's a
thing.
very secretive thing. Like, even my gaming clan doesn't have a public forum on our private forums because they don't want people to come in as a spy, which I understand. But if you're doing a podcast, you can't expect people to not know what you're talking about.
Right.
Like, you can do an Eve podcast and just not mention your specific corporation or your specific in-game names.
Right.
You know, if we really wanted to, we could just not tell people where we live and not say our real names.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be that difficult. If people really want to track you down, they will anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I really couldn't find any logic for what they were doing, and it's a pet peeve.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand the logic behind it, but whatever.
So you just lit up another cigar. Let's check in on our smokes and our drinks. We haven't mentioned what we're drinking.
Yes, I've been having the Bacardi Oak Heart because you generously brought some more over. I have a little
did
bit
buy
left,
that
but not
giant
much.
bottle.
So, yeah, you did.
That's pretty good.
I didn't really want to mention it because we've already mentioned it, but I mean, it's Oak Heart. I mean,
it's good stuff.
Yeah, if you like
it's
whiskey,
like a sweet bourbon.
It's a sweet bourbon. I mean, it's a rum, but it drinks like a bourbon. So I mean, if you're interested in whiskey but not really terribly big on rum,
I don't like rum, and I really like it.
Yeah, I'd say check it out definitely. If you're into rum, then you might like it as maybe even a gateway to going into whiskey. So I mean, hey,
absolutely,
it's a gateway drug.
Yay, drugs.
Woo! But the other item I know you have mentioned here, which is very near and dear to my heart because it happened recently.
Hold your fucking horses, buddy.
What
the fuck cigar are you smoking?
Oh, thank you. Actually, it's a Voodoo. It's one of the ones. Yeah, it's one of the ones from that bundle I got, and I've been wanting to smoke them for a while actually, because I've seen them advertised on Famous all the time. It's Voodoo, V-U-D-U, which is interesting spelling. But it's actually a really good Maduro cigar. I'd say it's kind of on the full flavored side. I mean, in fact, with this Oak Heart, it pairs pretty well. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about it. It's almost got a little bit of pepper to it. I mean, I'd have to have you try to give your
I'll
idea.
smoke one here, and we'll talk about it on the next show for sure.
So they sci-fi'd it then? With the Voodoo? They sci-fi'd it?
No, they didn't sci-fi it.
Sci-fi went to sci-fi.
Yeah, whatever the fuck. I don't even want to...
So they took Voodoo.
I see what you did there.
V-O-O-D-O-O, and...
But the fact, one of the things I like is the band is actually completely black. So like, unless, yeah, okay, yeah. If you're looking at the band, it's actually, I would say it's almost onyx. That's how black it is. So I mean, it's like if you look at it, you can't even really even see the name unless you're looking at it in the right light. So I mean, it definitely is going for more of that Maduro, dark.
They're basically really trying to tell you it's a strong cigar,
right? And it is. I mean, it's.
Now here's the question: is it strong and smooth, or is it strong and just kind of a harsh kind of strength?
I would say it's strong and peppery. It has a very smooth kind of draw to it.
So like a budget Jamie Garcia. Or Jaime, as they kept saying at the fucking cigar club meeting.
Yeah, I would say probably along those lines. I haven't had that cigar specifically, so I can't say. But I would say it's something along those kind of lines. It's not quite like an MX2 where it really like kind of kicks you in the mouth, but it definitely is a full-flavored kind of cigar. So I would recommend you probably eat something before you smoke one. But they're definitely worth a try, I would say.
No, I'm good.
I'm talking about eating. What do you...
I just kept dropping my cigar there.
Yeah, I know. It rolls off. That's one of the things I do. That's one of the things I like about my Zycar V cutter is it's got a nice divot in it, so you can use it as a cigar holder if you need to. Yes. But let's see. I know Ange has stopped smoking completely at this point, but
yeah, I can't.
How was your second cigar? You smoked two. Granted, they're small, but
it wasn't as good as the one I smoked before it. So. Yeah, it kind of got to
I think you had a bigger size the last time we had the regular cigar version. So.
Well, it also got to the point of, when I smoke more than one cigar, I get to the point where my mouth starts to get all, dry and stuff.
That's why I like the bourbon as a nice palate cleanser, so, or the rum in this case, but...
But it also got to the point where it just started tasting like tobacco instead of anything else, so...
Yeah.
I hate when that happens. I'm definitely a female smoker. I need, the flavors throughout. So
yeah. Now, Zero, I believe you lit up another cigar, didn't you? There.
No, I actually didn't even get halfway through mine. I moved on to water and migraine medicine.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
A lot of migraines going on today, apparently.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Mine was over Sunday, so I'm good now.
But we'll point out that Zero still came by.
Yeah, he did.
They did.
But, I lit up a Nica Rustica. It's my third to last from that bundle I bought. I think they're probably... I'd have to look at when I ordered them, but I think they're 2 or 3 months old. And it's got a mellowness to it now that usually you don't equate to a cigar until it's rested for 6 months to 8 months. Mm-hmm. I'm really, really impressed with these, and I'm definitely buying another bundle of them.
Okay.
I've just kind of been waiting for a good sale to pop up.
Yeah.
I'm consistently impressed with them, and it's probably my favorite Drew Estate cigar at this point.
Cool.
So it's great. I mean, it's the usual great Nica Rustica flavors, but it's just a lot more smooth, and I am getting more of the chocolatey notes out of it. Mm-hmm. And it pairs pretty well with the Oakart. The sweetness really goes well with it, and you almost get those notes you get in the morning with a cup of coffee, but have it at night. I would really recommend pairing this with the Oakart. It works really well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this full flavored works pretty well with it. So I mean, I would definitely check it out if you're interested in those sort of things. Let's get on to the next sad bit of news to kind of bring the podcast down, and then
I meant to bring that up earlier, but we got distracted repeatedly.
It's cool. Some really sad news hit me this week, especially because I'm a huge Ghostbusters fan. Harold Ramis passed away on Monday at 12:35 a.m. Those of you who are Ghostbusters fans will know him as Dr. Egon Spengler. He was also one of the writers on that film, because between him and Dan Aykroyd kind of collaborating, Dan Aykroyd was pretty much the believer in the paranormal, whereas Ramis was more of the skeptic. So that's part of the reason why Ghostbusters, I think, worked better than Dan Aykroyd's original treatment, because he had that counterbalance to make it work.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm saddened by it, but on the other hand, it's I'm really saddened by it by the fact that he died at the age of 69.
Giggity.
He wasn't that old though.
Ooh.
I mean, it's not it's not as tragic. Well, I guess you could say it's tragic, but Philip Seymour Hoffman, he wasn't even in his 60s yet.
No, but he died of other reasons.
Right. So, I mean, it's just
It sucks to die of natural causes that young. At this point in time, anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, it sucks even more because I didn't even know that Harold Ramis was ill at all. So, I mean, I was just kind of flabbergasted. Holy crap,
I had
he
no
died?
idea. Yeah, I was shocked when I saw that. I expected a car crash or something.
Right, and I mean, and for those people who aren't that big onto Harold Ramis, he wrote Animal House. Mm-hmm. He wrote Caddyshack, the original Caddyshack. So I mean, in fact, the funny part about Caddyshack was when he wrote that script. Originally, it was titled Charles Manson in High School. But they, I guess, like...
I can see why they would turn that title down.
Well, it wasn't so much the Charles Manson part, it was the idea that the stuff that they were getting up to in the original script just didn't make sense for high school. It made more sense for college. That's why it ended up becoming Animal House as we know it. So, I mean, it just... I don't know, it sucks because now, on the other hand, that's going to be another nail in the coffin to those of us who were kind of holding out hope for a third Ghostbusters film.
Yeah. Which there was a lot of talk about recently.
Yeah, and I mean, they could potentially still do it because they were talking about doing it with Bill Murray not actually being in it and having him play as a ghost. So now it's like, well, now we have to, have two people as a ghost if Bill Murray decides he really doesn't want to do it, because he keeps flip-flopping whether he wants to do it or not. So,
and that's the thing. I think there was a chance it would have happened before, but now that he's died, I don't think there's any chance of that film happening.
Yeah, because I know they've got other writers on it, but even then, without Dan and without Harold, it just wouldn't make any. It just wouldn't be right. I mean, it would turn into fucking like Underworld ghosts, and I don't even want to think about that, honestly. Another character that he played, which is another one of those ones that's kind of near and dear to my heart because I grew up watching the movie, was Stripes.
Oh, yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah, and his character of Russell Zisky was hilarious, especially with his, introduction saying, well, my father, often told me never hit anyone in anger unless you're absolutely sure you can get away with it. And it's like... Yeah. And then it is even better later, when they're getting ready to raid the Russian base. It's like, we're going into Czechoslovakia. Zip in, zip out. It's not like we're going into Moscow. It's like going into Wisconsin. It's like, yeah, well, I got the shit kicked out of me in Wisconsin once. Forget it. There are some lines that Harold Ramis delivered that you just can't get from anybody else. I mean, in fact, the one character of Otter from Animal House was supposed to be Harold Ramis originally. Yeah. But it ended up going to a different actor.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because when I think of him, I kind of identify him with Jason Mewes, to where Jay is kind of actually Jason Mewes. And there's not a lot of people out there where roles are written where the character is actually the actor.
Right.
Like, that's kind of the point of being an actor, is being someone else.
Yeah.
So when you get someone that's such an interesting personality that their personality can be a character in a film, that it really says a lot about the person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks that he died so young, but I guess, on the other hand, it's better that he died without a huge amount of suffering.
Right.
You see some people that just go through, they go through dementia and Alzheimer's and totally forget who they are.
Right.
And you have, Michael J. Fox with the terrible, diseases and that sort of thing. I think I prefer that kind of thing to that, but at the same time, it just sucks so much, man. Like, there's no way around it. And that tribute that was posted, the comic tribute where it shows him as a ghost, I really thought that was just the best way to...
Yeah, that was one of my favorite ones.
That's the best way to memorialize him, I thought.
Yeah, where which is now my profile picture on Facebook in tribute of him, because they're basically... The Ghostbusters are kind of waving goodbye as they're putting him into a trap. So.
Which, that was the only part I didn't like about that. The fact that he was going into a trap, because that's essentially like taking a cop and putting him in prison when he's too old to work anymore.
But if you're a fan like I am of Ghostbusters, you realize that if Egon was going to go anywhere, he would want to go into the containment unit to experience.
Well, and I agree, but that was just a funny thought that occurred to me, is that it's kind of like putting someone in a fucking prison when they're too old to be.
In fact, I was even almost like wanting to shed tears because the guy, Maurice LaMarche, who did the voice of Egon on the animated Ghostbusters cartoon, actually, came out and said his respects and his piece on the matter, and I was just like, wow, he's like, I never met the man personally. I'm like, that's even worse.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
He never met the guy at all and never talked to him or anything. So it's like, he's like, I'm hoping that at least I did him justice. And I'm like, well, I think you did, honestly, from what I saw. But I mean, In fact, I know even one of the Ghostbusters episodes I liked from the cartoon show was the one where he actually had to go into the containment unit to get Slimer out.
Well, and the funny thing is, that's actually... Ghostbusters is a weird thing for me because my first encounter with Ghostbusters was the cartoon. I didn't see the movies until years after I had watched the cartoon.
Yeah.
I watched the reruns, on TV for, years, like 2 or 3 years before I ever saw the original movie. And I was fucking terrified of the Marshmallow Man.
Yeah, Stay Puft is pretty scary. Actually, according to this article I got here, he died from autoimmune inflammatory vasculitis.
That is a hell of a thing to die from, apparently.
Yeah, basically it's your blood vessels enlarge. So, I mean, imagine like your blood cells trying to get bigger than the veins they're within. And apparently he's been battling it for the past 4 years.
Okay.
So, I mean, the fact that he lasted this long is a miracle. But like I said, I didn't even have any clue about that. And I mean...
I'm sure they didn't want to be out in the public.
Well, he probably didn't want to be remembered for his struggle with the disease.
Yeah. Right, but I'm just saying...
The only downside is that, when people are quiet about a disease like that, it doesn't bring any attention to research for it.
The other thing that bothers me is somebody posted an article. Apparently, those cocksuckers in the Westboro Baptist Church are planning on picketing his funeral.
I heard that, yeah.
And
Why?
Because he's Jewish.
So?
Really?
They don't. Yeah,
they're not okay with that.
They're not okay with Jewish people, and I'm like, neither was Hitler. But let's not even go that far. That would give him way too much attention as it is. I don't even really want to bring it up, but
the only redeeming thing there is that was probably the least prominent of the stories about him. Like, there was so much love for that guy. Like, all of the hate that they managed to create over that was completely covered up and swept under the rug by all of the love surrounding all of all of his family and
especially because there's actually a memorial going on outside of the Hook and Ladder number 8 where they filmed the exterior portions of some of the Ghostbusters films for their headquarters. They actually have a memorial with his picture and candles, and some people have brought by boxes of Cheez-Its and Twinkies. And I mean, honestly, I'm sure wherever he is, he's probably kind of smiling down at that a little bit,
Or from my point of view, in the ground.
Well, yeah, your fucked up point of view, damn it. Your depressing ass point of view. But I mean, I just wanted to mention that briefly because it was really sad for me.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that he's gone. But
I was really hoping it was some sort of a hoax, but
no, I mean it's really fucking terrible that he's gone. But his life was a huge success. He did a lot of good things. He made a lot of people smile, and he will continue to make people smile.
Yeah, because every time I watch Groundhog Day now, I'm just gonna kind of laugh and be happy. Every time I watch even the remake of Bedazzled that he did as well. I know it's not a great movie, but
I don't know that I'll ever watch that again to think about him. But I mean, I see your point nonetheless.
It was still a good movie on his part. So
right,
I mean,
right.
It's just sad to mention that, but I digress because I want to get back into being happy again.
So that kind of reminds me of something.
Okay.
So and it's terrible that Bedazzled reminds me of anything.
Oh, God.
But when something happens that is a piece of shit. So let's look at I could easily go into this in video games, but this is a cigar podcast ultimately. Let's look at a piece of shit cigar. And the taste is so subjective. Think of the worst cigar you can think of that's not a Swisher. Like a handmade cigar. So whatever the fuck that is in your mind, to me, it's like, a terrible Gurkha is a good example. Because the characteristics of a bad Gurkha is a pretty generic, flavorless cigar with bad construction. Like,
with
that's
an awesome
what I
name
think
behind
of.
It, yeah.
Well, and even detach the name and just say a terrible cigar that's got bad construction and not good flavor. There's still a lot of work that went into the creation of that cigar.
Right.
And the people that worked on it aren't necessarily bad people. They're not necessarily bad at their jobs. If I gave you bubble gum and a fucking beer bottle and said make a tank, you would not get a tank because A, you're not MacGyver.
No.
B, I gave you a beer bottle.
Uh-huh.
That was not full, so you couldn't even drink it. So typically when you get a bad cigar, it's not a bad cigar because you had bad cigar rollers. You had people that are good at their jobs given subpar materials and not enough time.
Mm-hmm.
See, now I'm trying to figure out how to shoot a gumball through a beer bottle. That's the engineer in me talking.
Well, that's a blow dart gun. But,
hey, it'll work.
I didn't give you a flak jacket. You're not a tank. Come on.
It'll work, damn it.
But, the same with video games. There's a lot of shitty video games out there.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Thief. The people that worked on Thief,
right.
the majority of them had no idea that they were making a piece of shit.
Right.
They still worked very hard to create good textures.
Mm-hmm.
They worked their fucking hardest to make good sound effects, to make good lighting effects. And you still wound up with the sum of the parts being a piece of shit.
Yeah. It's the same thing with movies. That's why, on one hand, I hate being overly critical of movies, but on the other hand, it's like one of the guys on the Dread Central podcast even said, I don't have time to watch shitty movies.
Right. That's very true. And I don't want to smoke bad cigars because it's an hour of my life that I won't get back. And if I get a bad cigar...
Or more, yeah.
You're better off to toss a bad cigar in the first third and pick up one you like than to smoke a bad cigar and have wasted your hour.
Well, my big issue is it's a waste of money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like wasting my money.
Right.
So if I'm buying something or consuming something that I've just spent money on, which is probably, if we're talking movies and cigars, is going to be expensive, then I don't want to waste my fucking money.
Right.
I mean, it's
it does burn your ass, too, when you go to the movies and you spend $30 and the movie
50.
sucks. Whatever you spend,
You get popcorn and
everything else,
I never buy popcorn or drinks. We just smuggle shit in.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's time and money, and it's a piece of your life that's being spent doing this.
It's like
so
an hour
and
50 minutes you'll never get back. Yeah.
So it's not okay to hold the people that worked on it accountable unless it was very clearly a subpar effort and those people were bad at their jobs, but they probably aren't there anymore if they were.
Right.
Well, it's sort of...
But where it's not okay is to say, fuck the people that worked on this.
Pay $13 for my cigar.
Yeah, and essentially it comes down to, again, speak with your wallet. If it's a bad cigar, it's okay to say it's a bad cigar.
Yeah.
You can say, I don't like this because it tastes bland and the construction was bad, it canoed, it went out 17 fucking times.
Yeah. Well, it's like the only, aside from those Havana Classico Pequeños that I had that I could barely even get lit to start with.
Yeah.
Those were shitty to begin with, but those were also pretty much supposed to be shitty because they were cheap. But on the other hand, you got something like, I got it in those winnings from the Halloween party, was that Don Pepin Blue that I really didn't like. And it's not that the construction sucked, the construction was fine, I just really didn't like the cigar.
Well, I mean, at your Halloween party, Ryan got the plugged...
That Opus,
He got the plugged Opus X.
Right.
That's 100% unacceptable.
Right.
Because not only are they charging you $20 to $30 a cigar...
Right. It's also this limited run that you can barely get half the time, yeah.
Yeah, not only that, but it's an exclusive cigar that there's not very many made of. I understand that the rollers can have an off day. They can fucking misroll something. Shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, when you're charging $30, your Q&A should be so stringent that kind of product isn't getting out on the market.
Right.
And when it becomes something that's accepted and the stores will tell you, hey, that might be bad, half of them are really shitty and won't smoke, bring it back and we'll give you a new one.
Right.
Those stores have to stop carrying that.
Mm-hmm.
But because people keep saying what great cigars these $30 cigars are, they keep putting them out just like that.
Yeah.
People are afraid to say, that's a shitty cigar. Just because they're afraid, the maker will find out that you said that on Twitter, and they'll, say something mean back to you. People are afraid of saying things for no particular reason. It's like they're not going to sue you for saying it's a shitty cigar. And if they do, what are they gonna do? Like, what recourse do they have?
Aside from say mean things to you on Twitter, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, grow some thicker skin for fuck's sake.
Well, it's also one of the things too that people watch TV shows,
right?
And they get so into the TV shows that they forget that the characters are human people with their own lives.
Yeah.
Right.
And if they see him in public, they run up to him and start trying to beat him up because they don't like him. You know, it's just kind of like that.
I mean, granted, that's a very good sign, like if you're playing a villain on a show or even a movie, if somebody comes up and say, hey, fuck you, you know, you killed my character.
From fucking Game of Thrones.
Right.
One of the most evil fucking characters in the fucking literary world. You know, people fucking hate that guy.
Right.
He's a fantastic actor, though.
Right.
And people are recognizing him for that, which is a good thing. Like, that's a step in the right direction. But overall, it's not the case. Like, people are like, oh, you're a villain, and because you're the fucking actor that played the villain, you're a piece of shit.
Well, that's the problem with type. I mean, look at Alan Rickman. Even when he plays a good guy in a movie, he still is like a bad guy. I mean, come on. But, I mean, that's the thing. You get typecasted to a part like that, that's what happens. I mean, you can either make a really good living at it. I mean, like they just had that commercial over the Super Bowl with, you know, why British people are always bad guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
And you know, it's funny. I forget who I was talking with about this. But it's almost worse to have an iconic role than it is to be a semi-unknown actor. Like you see the character actors that Kevin Smith constantly brings up. And I really appreciate that he does that. Unfortunately, it's usually on Tinseltown Stiffs.
Well, honestly, that's the thing. My father told me a long time ago, you know, with my acting and everything, is that if I were to become an actor, like in Hollywood, 9 times out of 10, what I would probably be is a character actor. I would be a Steve Buscemi. I would be somebody like that, you know.
Best case scenario.
Right.
Yeah. But it's almost worse to be that iconic character because you end up like the pie fucker.
Right, exactly.
You end up like Jason Biggs, who's always the guy that fucked the pie in American Pie.
Right, and then you try to watch him in that, I can't even remember the title of the other movie he made, but the other movie that he made with Mina Suvari and everything where he was going to college and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't even remember the title.
I can't off the top of my head
But you know
that
the pie fucker was in that movie.
Well, I know that he was in it and the other chick was in it. So, yeah, I mean,
that's almost worse than being a character. Well, it's absolutely worse than being a character actor, except that you make a lot more money.
Right, and what other movies has Jason Biggs been in?
And look at, you know, a prime example, look at fucking Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
He is forever going to be Jack Sparrow, and he's aware of it, and he's making a lot of money off of it.
Well, it's like he's aware of it now.
But at the time he wasn't.
But at the time he wasn't, but on top of that, I mean, that's pretty much all he's ever done. I mean, go back and watch, Gilbert Grape. Go back and watch, Crybaby. Go back and
watch Edward Scissorhands, for fuck's sake.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. Totally different character, totally... Like, literally the polar opposite.
Even go back and watch old episodes of fucking 21 Jump Street. Yeah. I mean, completely different shifts in character. He can do just about anything he wants. Go back and watch Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
But he's
playing Hunter
still
Thompson.
That character.
Yeah. I mean, even now, I'm sure people will still go up to him and be like, we can't stop here. This is Bat Country. You know? Yes. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's... and that's a total tangent. Like, I literally thought of that while we were sitting here.
Hey, that's funny.
But I thought it was an interesting topic. The other thing that kind of, it's a weird, abstract concept, and I like to bring these things up because it makes people's brain work. And it absolutely makes my brain work.
Yeah.
Part of the concept in Eve is that, and somebody made a joke, it's such a hardcore game. Like, if you thought Dark Souls was hardcore, you literally can't even start playing until they kill your character.
Right.
The idea is they kill you as a person in order to regenerate you as a clone.
Right.
So that once your ship is destroyed and your character is murdered in space, you can upload your personality and you as a person into a new clone of yourself.
Right.
And it occurred to me, why do we limit ourselves in sci-fi, in imaginary worlds, to reincarnating ourselves as another bipedal human? a clone of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Why not, instead of uploading ourselves into another pilot, why not upload ourselves as the actual spaceship? Why not be a space station? You know, like, granted, there's the monetary limitations, but if you're creating a 100% accurate human clone, the price difference between that and a fucking spaceship that you're buying anyway, that you're piloting with the clone, isn't that different.
Well, it's kind of like what you mentioned Johnny Depp earlier. His new movie's getting ready to come out, The Transcendence, where he plays like a proponent of a very smart, uploading human consciousness to an AI.
Right.
And he ends up doing that in the movie, which honestly, if you go and watch that, it's definitely going to be a departure from Jack Sparrow and his shenanigans.
Right.
So, I mean, that right there is the idea that you're not limited to what you are now.
Right. And that's what's so funny to me is that people, they go out of their way to limit themselves.
Well, I mean, on one hand, like I was talking about with characters getting typecast and being villains all the time, yeah, it sucks that you get typecast as a villain, but you get steady fucking work.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about an entirely different and totally sci-fi abstract concept here. Like, imagine for a second, if you could take yourself and when you die, like live your full life, you're fucking 95 years old, and you have the conscious ability, you're aware enough to say, I don't want to be Andrew again.
Right.
Do you put yourself into a clone that looks like your wife? Do you want to be a woman?
Right.
Do you want to be a robot that looks like a human? If you're going to go to that extent, why don't you be the most technologically advanced piece of fucking
hardware,
machinery out there?
Yeah.
When you're looking at something that abstract, why limit yourself to another set of human limitations?
I was gonna say, do you want to be another version of you, or do you want to be the $6 billion man? I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. I was like, why? If I'm gonna re-upload my consciousness, why do I upload my consciousness to a human? Why, if I'm spending 100% of my time in this spaceship, or in a spaceship docked in a space station, why bother with walking around the space station as a human? Why not just be the ship station, and then be that much more efficient at controlling it? It totally random and abstract, I know.
But there you go.
But it was something that occurred to me. So if you've listened to this far, I want to know.
Not to get all meta and existential on your ass.
Yeah, I want to know, like, Zero, like, you're here. What the fuck would you... Like, what's your point of view? Would you prefer to be another human if you could upload your consciousness at the end of your lifetime? Or would you rather be a badass spaceship and go check Mars out? Or what would you do?
I would probably be a humanoid type thing. Like, I don't know if that would be back to a human. Like, if I can be reborn as, like, a badass looking elf, why not?
There you go.
Yeah, but, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe I've just gotten used to interacting with the universe in the way that I already am. I don't really want to be a spaceship or something. Like, I know how to pilot. Like, I would assume if we were in that time, like, it wouldn't be that hard to figure out how to pilot a spaceship, but it would be really hard to figure out how to, like, do anything as a spaceship.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you could go to a planet and land on it, but then what?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't unless
you're sending out drones. Like, why can't you extend your consciousness to drones at that point?
Right. I was gonna say, if you could do that, then yeah, that's one thing.
You're already a clone of yourself.
If you could be a drone or a rover or something like that actually can explore.
I mean,
I've
already got a fucking hangar full of clones of myself. Why not send those clones onto the planet and see 30 different views of the planet all at the same time?
But again, you're dealing with humanoid clones of yourself experiencing the planet, whereas...
Well, why do they have to be humanoid?
That's what I was getting
Well, I mean, if you can upload your conscience to, like, drones and whatnot, then why the hell can't you, as, like, a humanoid-type person, just upload yourself to the ship when you're on it?
Well, and that's essentially what you're doing, and I guess that's my point, is, like, I don't understand why we... Even in our science fiction, why do we limit ourselves to, I'm going to be a pilot that sits in a chair and makes the ship do these things. Why don't you just fucking sit in it and, why do you need to sit in it, I guess, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that thing that looks like a human sitting in the ship and the ship itself operating, other than, I guess, the base human interaction and the need to be what you already are?
Well, it's kind of like, if you're a fan of Knight Rider, okay, do you want to be Michael Knight, or would you rather be Kit, the car? I mean, yeah, the car does a whole lot of badass shit, but I mean...
But ultimately, the car is just an AI...
Exactly.
...that you're corresponding with. And if you're integrated with that, you're still corresponding with that AI.
Right.
There's no difference.
Yeah.
It's literally just our perception of the way the interaction takes place. And holy shit, does that sound crazy.
Hey, there you go. This is what happens when we get late night and drunk.
Not you.
And, you know.
That's your child.
I think she knows that, dude.
I'm not going to be that parent, I decided.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely something interesting to kind of think about. I mean, I'm sure there's various science fiction authors or whatnot. I know there was actually to give kind of a book review, there was a science fiction book I read a long time ago that my dad had called Head Crash. Which
You're going to say head crab.
No. No.
Your dad had crabs? What?
No. No, there was a book called Head Crash, and it actually dealt with kind of an early version of what we now know as like virtual reality and getting online and all that. In fact, it was one of the books I read when I was in middle school, actually, when I read it, that actually dealt with the idea that, you know, we're not going to have books anymore. Right. We're going to have like digital books.
Yeah.
Theirs was more like books on disc,
mm-hmm.
but even then it still had that basic concept. And I mean, it basically he would go home and he would jack himself into the internet and he would have his whole little avatar that was kind of...
Whereas now we go home and jack ourselves off to the internet.
Well, you know, hey.
See what I did there?
He did meet a girl while he was in there, but I mean, it's kind of that interesting idea.
I see what you're saying, though.
Of, you know, branching yourself out into something more than you are. In fact, when he was in the virtual world, he was pretty much a badass dude, but in reality, I mean, he lost his job, you know, he still had the user manual on disc from his fucking job, shit like that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's an interesting thing because people are talking about the differences in, like, people go online and impersonate, you know, women when they're a fat, ugly guy.
Mm-hmm.
We're not that far off from there really not being any difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, the only place where that ends is when there's physical interaction involved.
Right.
You know, if you end up talking with a guy on the internet, and really you fall in love with this guy on the internet,
mm-hmm.
and you don't know it's a guy,
mm-hmm.
Granted there's some trust issues there that
mm-hmm.
come into play,
mm-hmm.
But were you to try to, you know, meet that person in real life,
mm-hmm.
the only difference is it comes down to a morality issue and a personal biases issue.
Mm-hmm.
That person is still that person, except for the fact that they were pretending to be a different person.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, the morality and the trust issues are really the only thing that's left, and we're almost getting to the point where that's no longer even an issue. So it's just an interesting thing to think about how far we've come in such a short period of time, and it's impossible to know how things will change from here.
Strange times that we live in, indeed.
When you were talking about that book, it reminded me, you would enjoy a book called Armor.
Okay.
Where a person is able to go and relive the life of the person that previously wore the armor.
Huh.
And it's a kind of interesting idea where that armor has the memories of that person and that their entire life.
Right. And
the whole lines between reality and what happened in that other person's reality that lived 100 years ago get blurred.
Right.
That's also a very interesting concept from a sci-fi novel that was written like 50 years ago.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the one thing about science fiction that I always think doesn't really get brought out enough, is that there are concepts in there that, especially now, have only just begun to really be a concern. I mean, if you look at something like Fahrenheit 451 that Ray Bradbury wrote, they kind of they did a version of it that was a little more interesting, I think, with the film Equilibrium.
Yeah.
But I mean, basically that whole thing was, anything that registered an emotional response in equilibrium was eradicated.
Yeah.
So art, music, books, anything that was at all emotionally, it triggered some sort of emotion was eradicated. Like there was one part in that film particularly where they found a copy of the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
And they torched it.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Right.
Seriously. I mean, now we don't even, now we could sit here and think, well, that's not going to happen. And it's like, but now, I mean, shit. We can't even smoke in fucking IPFW campus.
And here's the thing, though. Like, that's an interesting shift in the point of view of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because back then, you didn't have perfect recreations of something like the Mona Lisa like we do now.
Right.
You can look at a digital recreation, which is literally nothing more than a picture of the Mona Lisa.
Right.
You can't physically destroy every copy.
Right.
Unless people consciously make an effort to destroy every copy. Once something is on the internet...
Well, unless somebody destroys the internet, yeah.
See, but that's the thing. All those people still have that on their individual computers. But the only way to destroy the internet is to do away with electricity, which brings up an entirely different issue.
Right.
As long as the internet persists, it doesn't have to persist in the same manner that it has already.
Right.
It's literally just a connection of people's collections of things.
Mm-hmm.
They're digital things, but they are still things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, there's a difference between the real thing and the digital thing. Absolutely there is.
Yeah.
But the idea of completely getting rid of the Mona Lisa as a whole and pretending that it never happened is next to impossible, short of completely blasting us back to the fucking Stone Age.
Right.
Something Fallout scale.
Right.
And even then, some small remnant of it persists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's an interesting concept that just, like I said, we have no idea what's ahead of us 20 years from now.
Well, that's one of the things about not to derail the topic a little bit, but
we've gone on.
But the like you were talking about Fallout, with New Vegas, they have that faction called Caesar's Legion. Well, they dress like Roman soldiers. How the fuck do you know what a Roman soldier looks like? This is supposed to be 200 years after nuclear fallout has destroyed the world.
Well,
how the fuck do you know what the Roman soldiers look like?
That's just it, though. Somebody saw one picture of a Roman soldier.
Right.
And they took that idea and perpetuated it and brought it back.
Right.
Which is exactly what I was saying, is it's at this point in time and going forward, it's nearly impossible to go that far backwards again.
Right.
It really almost cannot happen.
Right.
Which is an interesting thought because, as short, going as short back as World War I, we can't go further back than that.
Mm-hmm.
The world will never get to a point where people are no longer able to create black powder.
Mm-hmm.
A world without guns probably will never exist again.
Mm-hmm.
They will just exist in a different manner, one direction or another.
Mm-hmm.
The same with the internet. It might not look the way that it looks now, but the internet doesn't look like it used to when it was invented either.
No, I mean, somebody even put up a picture of what their version of what Facebook would have looked like if it had come out in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not terribly different, but I mean, when you look at the picture, you can kind of see what,
Conceptually, it's similar. The idea persists, but the visual aspects, the aesthetics of it are different.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an interesting topic to wrap your brains around.
Yeah, that kind of made my brain hurt. I don't know if it was the rum.
It got really deep.
It did. You wanted to mention our upcoming guests. I know we were supposed to have...
Yeah, we're going to have Fred on. I think I'm going to push that to the next episode.
Okay.
This has been a pretty long episode. I think we're going on 3 hours, and I know I'd like people to hear our conversation we just had.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot won't, because
I know this conversation.
Shut up.
I know a lot of our listeners stop around 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I have no intention of cutting the show short to 2 hours at any point because I have a shitload of fun talking.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like people to hear more, as much as possible, of our shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I hate to make them any longer than they need to be.
Right. But sometimes it takes a while to get to those really good.
Yeah. It takes time to drink that much booze.
Yeah, it does.
But I'll probably put him on the next podcast because I'd like to put that up at the very front and get people interested and keep them there.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't get any more migraines or anything between now and then. Hopefully.
And and like I said, I'll talk with you and find out when you might be available to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think our schedule should line up pretty well because you're free most of the weeknights, I know, aside from a few.
Like I said, pretty much up until we go to Disney, that's about pretty much whenever I'm available.
But the other thing is, it's probably going to have to be similar to this thing with Fred, where we'll have to do it on a different night and include it as an interview. We're going to have Jose Blanco on to talk about his new cigar line.
I'm hoping we can do it on a Tuesday night because I want to talk to him and, all that stuff. So.
Well, we might have to make a special occasion show for that.
Right.
That might need to happen just because he's super fucking busy.
Yeah, I understand, especially now with him getting ready to launch his new line and everything.
And I would rather have that be a short and interesting interview than a long, drawn-out, boring conversation.
Right.
I don't know that that's possible. I'm sure it would be a long, drawn-out, interesting conversation.
Yeah.
But I would rather have it be short and to the point and get the information out there and really, just get the information to the people.
Right.
But, so Jose Blanco will be on to talk about his new cigar line. And then
the other one I'm kind of excited about is...
I'm super excited for this one because he's been, kind of a... I don't want to say he's been like an idol or anything. He's been an interesting person that I've been keeping track of since the early Battlefield days. David Goldfarb of Dice has agreed to come on the show.
If nothing else, I just want to ask him where's my 2142 sequel. That's all I want to know.
Well, unfortunately, he's no longer part of Dice.
Ooh.
So he doesn't have any input on that.
Well, you could tell me about why it didn't happen then.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to mention it, is if you guys have questions, and you'll see a lot about it. He worked on Battlefield 3. He worked on previous Battlefields. He worked for DICE. But he was the lead developer and designer on Battlefield 3, as well as Battlefield Bad Company 2. I believe he actually wrote a lot of that.
Do you know why he left DICE, or is it...
I don't know all the details. I know there's a lot of the details available, but I tend to avoid a lot of that. I don't know how much he can say. I know everything he can say is already out there.
Yeah.
Because it's quite a while ago.
Right.
But he's one of the most vocal developers I've ever seen. He will literally live blog what he's working on for Payday 2 as he's working on it and post screenshots. Like, he was working on a new mask for Payday 2 and taking input from people on Twitter while he worked on it.
Nice.
Like, that's a crazy thought.
That you could have that much input on something that you're getting ready to play, yeah.
So I'm super excited to talk with him, and if you guys have any questions about game design, about game development, feel free to post them on our Facebook. Feel free to send them to us or directly to him on Twitter. I'd love for you guys to say, hey, we heard you're going to be on Box Press Radio. Can you please talk about this? Because I know he will.
Yeah.
As long as he's actually legally and physically able to talk about it.
Right.
There's a lot of interviews out there with him. He's a vocal person and a very straightforward person.
Cool.
So I'm excited to have him on. Now that's going to be a little bit down the road. We're looking at something like, I think, April.
Yeah.
Probably early to mid-April because he's got to go to the Game Developers Conference, GDC as it's known. So it'll be a little bit of time before he's on, but that gives us plenty of time to plan.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm kind of glad that Fred from Nomad kind of delayed. I tried to research as much about that brand as I could.
Yeah.
It's a little bit tough to get a hold of because I know from my small amount of research that I've had time for, he's been doing a lot of boutique-style brands I believe his Esteli brand that came out for Nomad was actually only 800 boxes produced or 300 boxes produced. I don't remember which number is right. But that's a super, super tiny run, and it was 100% sold out at IPCPR last year. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I want to spend more time researching that brand, and probably I'll talk with him a little bit and get more information, so we'll have a more direct interview. There's a lot of guys out there doing better interviews than I feel that we've done, and I'd like to bring us up to that standard. So yeah, but that's pretty much all I had, I think. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm cold.
I'm comfortable.
About all I gotta say is, here's to Harold Ramis, wherever he is.
Yeah, fucking A, drink something.
I ran out.
Well, you can drink something tomorrow. Think of Ghostbusters. Not semen. You're dirty.
I can drink that now if I wanted to.
Yeah, it might take a few minutes. But with that, I hope you guys have a great week, and have a good night, you guys.
See ya.
Take care, everybody.